Man, faithful handyman. He's just a little brought down because when you knocked, he thought you
All
were
right,
the
welcome back.
Candyman.
Yeah. There we go. Have you seen that movie, Kim?
Which one is it?
I guarantee she is
I'll
not.
doubt it.
Come on. Come on. You don't recognize that at all? Come on. Kim St. Ange back in the building this morning, and we're happy to have her back. I'm glad you're feeling better?
Better than I was. It's been a weird few days because it didn't really feel like a sickness. And I think many of you were thinking she probably had cyclosporiasis because I did, in fact, eat lettuce.
I did indeed think that.
However, I ate said lettuce on Saturday at my son's first birthday party, and they say it takes 2 weeks to set in. And without going into detail, I didn't have all the symptoms that you would have with cyclosporiasis. So I've kind of ruled that out, but I cannot figure out why I was like keeled over in pain.
My goodness,
pain.
for 3 days, and you're still, you tell me, not on top of your game this morning,
I'm
right?
a little out of it. I think I was dehydrated, so it was just a weird, my brother-in-law, I go to him, he's my chiropractor, and he's like, you need to start drinking lots of water because I think you're pretty badly dehydrated.
Pretty dehydrated.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, we're glad you're back. I'm sorry you had to go through that. I hope you're feeling better. That music, that theme music, by the way, was the Rocky Horror Picture Show.
Okay, with
and
that
that
guy,
was Tim Curry,
yeah.
who just died. Those always come in threes. You have to wonder who's next.
I know.
Dolly Parton, Tim Curry, and I don't know.
How old was Tim Curry? Because, see, I know him from
Better
Home
not.
Alone.
He was 82.
80. He was also
Wow.
80.
See,
Now, he had a stroke a few years ago in his
Yeah.
mid-60s and has not been performing or anything for a long time and was kind of out of the public eye. I suspect that had something to do with his death, but they've not announced what caused his death yet. But very sad. That I remember going to the Rocky Horror Picture Show in the 1980s, and that was alternative culture back then. Like people, it was a cult. People would go to that movie and they would stand up and throw toast and popcorn, and like water would rain down on you when it was raining in the movie. They would act out scenes in the movie in the theater. I went once and I never went back. I'm like, this is weird. I'm sorry if you were one of those people that did that. That I rejected that at the time. I was never one of the cult followers of the Rocky Horror Picture Show, but I definitely went and saw it once. Once was enough for me.
So it wasn't the theater doing it; it was the people.
The people in the
It was
theater.
acknowledged that you
the
would
cult
do this.
followers who went to it did that, and to each his own. That just wasn't me. I wasn't. I did not find that very entertaining. Actually, to get stuff thrown at me.
I mean, the only other movie, like I said, that I know him from would be Home Alone, but he has such an
that's
iconic
true.
role in that movie.
You never saw Clue?
And
No.
and
Oh,
he
that
was
movie's great.
He was a big Broadway star too for a few years. So sad to hear that for sure. But regardless. Hey, by the way, some big news happening here yesterday. Mayor Kara Spencer, to my knowledge, for the first time ever as a politician, appeared on this radio station on the Reardon Show.
So I did catch some of it as I was driving in this morning.
So hats off to her for having the guts to do it. Tashara Jones certainly never did. To my knowledge, Lyda Crewson didn't. But Kara Spencer agreed to come on and talk to Reardon about police funding. I'm sure the men and women at the St. Louis Police Officers Association were trying to put their head through a wall when she was talking about how she wants to change their benefits package. But we'll have to have one of them on to talk about that. I've got a lot of I got you some sound from her interview this morning, so you can listen to a portion of it. Now, I didn't get to hear the whole thing last night. I listened to more of it and recorded some of the stuff that I was interested in this morning. He asked her about the tornado recovery. They talked a lot about police, about that dust up where she allegedly went to a police officer's funeral and had words with some officers over salary. I know an eyewitness to that who said that it did indeed happen. She gives her own explanation of what happened there and basically blames the police union for stirring the pot because they have ulterior motives, which is fighting her on police pay. So they're trying to make her look bad. So I'll let you hear her explanation of the whole thing this morning. So it was interesting. Here's the thing I'll say about Kara Spencer. People don't get elected to positions like that by accident. I mean, occasionally you'll get a Kim Gardner who gets elected and nobody knows what the hell she's going to do. And she just really got lucky. Like Cori Bush just really got lucky winning that first election. And then they take the office and you realize you don't know what the hell they're doing, right? You don't get that impression with Kara Spencer. She reminds me of a Gavin Newsom or this Abdul El Sayed out of Michigan. She is a very good speaker, and she's very good at making her points and making them sound reasonable, which would be fairly different from her actions sometimes, I would argue. I'd love to get her on here sometime and talk about some of these issues. Mark pushed back on her on the salary thing, on state control and versus local control of the police.
Which Mark supported local, it sounds like.
He said originally he supported local control when they first switched back to local control. Because, quite frankly, Francis Slay, when that all happened, I was there. I covered it as a reporter. It was that Francis Slay wasn't a crazy Democrat. You know what I'm saying? Like they wanted control because they wanted the political power to control what was going on in the police department. But their goal wasn't to do that because they wanted to defund the police. That was never their goal. They didn't have social workers going along on calls and stuff back then when that first happened. So then they got local control back, and then eventually through Lyda Crewson and Tashara Jones, it just went off the rails. I mean, it's no different to me. To me, it's no different than the accreditation issue with the St. Louis Public Schools. At some point, the state had to step in and appoint a board because the people running the St. Louis Public Schools were so incompetent that they weren't getting the job done. So that's no different to me than the state coming in and taking control over the police department. At some point, somebody had to step in and be the adult and say, no, this is really stupid and has nothing to do with law enforcement. Why are we doing this?
Yeah.
That's my 2 cents.
I mean, I give her props for coming in, like you said, because even if you don't agree with someone, at least they have the guts to come on and be challenged. And that's the issue with so many of these liberals. And you even hear Bill Maher talk about that. He's like, I invite all these people onto the show, and no one is brave enough to actually come on and let me ask a challenging question. Yeah. It's the conservatives who are willing to do that.
She did talk about that. One thing they didn't bring up was the merger. So just let me tell you where the mainstream media makes news sometimes. I watched gap-jawed yesterday when I saw this particular story come across the Channel 4 app that I have on my phone. In response to I don't know what, I'm not sure what it was in response to, they decided to go back and look at what it would take for the city-county merger to really take place. And they did a 6-minute piece on it with one of the freeholder board members from Better Together, who obviously is very clearly in favor of bringing the city back into the county. We're going to talk about this morning because this is what I talk about all the time, and I tell you that you can have bias in the media through through not covering something. You can have bias in the media versus what they decide to cover, and what you need to really look deeper into is what is their intention in covering it to promote it. And in this particular case, the answer is yes. They're all in for it. It was pretty obvious from the interview that they're all in, and they brought in a guy who was all in for it. And they didn't have anybody else in the interview who raised concerns about it, although they did read a few texts from people they'd sent in who there were a couple were opposed to it, but I mean, that was a softball. Here, so-and-so says, well, you should leave this alone. Well, we understand that sentiment, but we need to move the region forward. I mean, that's the kind of flowery language they use to talk about making the city's problems the county's problems. So we can talk more about that as the morning goes on. What I've done here is go on about the mayor and the Better Together merger talk again, too long. So I think what we'll do, Ethan, is wait until the top of the next segment to get to the top story list that I handed you a few minutes ago. And right now, we'll get to our national anthem.
Well, good morning. I'll tell you what, we look great on the roads at this hour. 70 is in great shape, no problems on 64. But we've got road work that, of course, is continuing. So starting tonight on 70 in St. Charles, 9 p.m. until 5:30 tomorrow morning, they'll have one eastbound and westbound lane closed from Wentzville Parkway to Route A. And from 9 p.m. to 5 a.m. tomorrow, they will close all lanes of 70 westbound at 64. Now, there will be detours marked, but you really don't want to get caught in that. Again, that's tonight, 9 p.m. till 5 a.m. tomorrow. All westbound lanes of 70 will be closed at 64. I'm Sue Thomas with traffic on 97.1 FM Talk, St. Louis Conservative.
Let's talk about the great weather we're having right now, man. It is warm. It is not overly wet, so you really have an opportunity to let Home Shield Foundation Repairs come out, fix your basement problems, your leakage problems before the next round hits. How about that? Let them get in there. They can get the work done, and right now they're offering you 24 months, same as cash financing. So it depends on the job. Maybe you've got a simple crack in the wall that needs to be sealed, or maybe you've got something more involved like putting in a sump pump. So when you put that in there, you can get it paid for, get the job done now, and then take your time paying for it with no interest or penalties or any of that. I love that. You can talk to my friend Matt Hayes, 314-271-9900. Tell him you want him to come out and get this thing taken care of once and for all, because it's probably your home is your biggest investment for most of us, and you don't want to have a problem with mold or water getting in your basement and ruining it. Again, check him out. Ask about the 24-month same as cash financing. Go to HomeshieldFoundationRepairs.com.
The time now is 5:20, and this time check is brought to you by Paramount Men's Medical Center. Kim's back, so we'll have Kim on a whim at 5:35.
Every single time the chattering class in Washington starts to say, "Oh, Donald Trump is losing his grip on the party," but every time that happens, he so far has proven us wrong. So there's that.
Yeah, Anna Lenski of the Boston Globe. So the Boston Globe is no friend of Donald Trump. What she's saying here is, we saw what happened in South Carolina. As you talk about the midterms, let us not forget that every time we've underestimated Donald Trump, he's surprised us.
100% of the time, if Trump endorsed a non-elected incumbent like Darlene Graham, they in fact won the Republican primary for United States Senate. Trump's name is still the one that GOP voters buy when it comes to Senate endorsement.
Yep, Harry Enton kind of backing up what Anna Lenski said there on Fox yesterday, that when you have that endorsement, it makes a difference. And all of these candidates, including, I'm hoping, Ken Paxton in Texas, is going to have that endorsement and some of that money.
I inherited affordability. I inherited high prices. I'll put it a different way. And we've really gotten them down. Now we have.
Yeah, there's the president there talking about this affordability question, which gets asked in every single interview. And I do think it is worth repeating, although it probably becomes noise in people's heads, that they did inherit about a 20% inflation rate over the 4 years of Joe Biden. That doesn't make it any easier when your gas tank fill-up costs you $125. That's what they've got to address.
What's the distinction here between re-entering St. Louis County versus a lot of people use the term merger? How is this a different approach?
Re-entry is something entirely different. Re-entry takes the city of St. Louis, which is currently a city not within a county, unlike virtually every other city in the United States, and it puts it within St. Louis County.
Yeah, that's a dude named Joe Blanner. He was a freeholder during the Better Together merger. So remember, they put together a board of freeholders. One of the many reasons Better Together fell apart is they came in with the evil intention of holding a statewide vote and because they knew the people in Kansas City and Springfield and all that don't care about St. Louis, and they would not care if it was merged or not. So they very well might vote for something like that. So hell was raised about that, and they backed off a little bit. Then they tried to put together a board of freeholders. And I think the city got to appoint a certain number of people, and the county got to appoint a certain number of people. And one of the two never finished appointing their board. I think it was the city, because there was some pushback in the city over whether this was a great idea or not. When or if a merger happened, the city loses power. The politicians in the city lose power for controlling the city. The idea that Blanner is now floating, just so you know, and Channel 4, the story it didn't just appear out of nowhere, right? So it was very intentional on the part of the media to bring it up. Somebody is pushing them to promote this idea, and Joe Blanner goes on the air to talk about the fact that, well, this is different than what Better Together is going to be. This is just like the city coming back into the county, just like Baldwin or Florissant or Chesterfield, and then because this doesn't exist anywhere else, so it would just normalize things. Let me ask you a question. The city of St. Louis has roughly 300,000 people. You understand that, right? What do you think is currently the largest municipality in St. Louis County? It's either Florissant or Chesterfield at a little over 30,000.
Well, I thought Chesterfield had, last I saw, it was 47,000.
But so it's whether it's 33 or 34, that's the number I have in my head, or 44, it's 10 times less than the city of St. Louis. Now, what do you think happens to the St. Louis County politics if this ever takes place? Number one, the county would have to deal with a bunch of St. Louis City debt. Number one, that's the first thing that would happen. They would have to merge some of their services. They would have to, because they don't need two controllers. They don't need there would be other services like tax collection and all that they would not need to double that effort. So then it would go to one more powerful position in the county, right? But what about the influence on county politics? First of all, there's never been a Republican elected since the 1980s to the county executive's office. Dennis Hancock faces an uphill battle this year against Jake Zimmerman. It's not that he doesn't have any chance, but it's been a long time. The board hasn't been in control of Republicans since probably before the 1980s. Now, they have a solid 3 members on there, and they usually get along okay with some of the Democrats, Shalonda Webb and the others who have their own issues with Sam Page. But when you have a municipality that's 10 times the size of every other municipality, they will also have an undue influence on St. Louis County politics. Now, if you live in the county and you don't mind the fact that it's already a blue county, just understand that whatever the ridiculous policies have been of the city the last 60 years that has driven the majority of the population into St. Louis County, and then in many cases on out to Jefferson and Lincoln and St. Charles and all those places, would suddenly be bringing all of those negative ideas that they've instituted over the years, earnings taxes and all that, they'd be bringing all of that to St. Louis County politics. Just so you know that. Nobody in the city is going to give up their power. They're going to move in and take over St. Louis County Council. Nothing about this has anything to do with smaller government, fewer taxes. This is about a bailout for the city of St. Louis. Plain and simple. Now, if you're a St. Louis County voter and you don't mind that, I just want you to see what's coming. And I'm trying to explain that they're now trying to finesse this as, oh, well, just let us move back over into the county. And it was just not really a merger. It's a merger because so many things would be merged. It's a merger. And along with, if you get married to somebody who's $100,000 in debt, guess what? Suddenly you are $100,000 in debt. Just so you know that. Just a little dating advice there. All right, coming up, we'll get to Kim on a whim. Stay tuned.
I'm Stuart Varney, and this is the Fox Business Report.
More retail companies are reporting earnings today. We'll find out if tight budgets are driving more shoppers to Dollar General and Dollar Tree. Also reporting Best Buy and human resources software company Workday. Networking chips designer Marvell Technology reports earnings after the Wall Street closed today. Brian Payne of Payne Capital says even though the latest readings suggest sticky inflation and higher interest rates, he sees reasons to remain in the market.
I think retail investors have $4 trillion in cash. Even if you're getting a 3.4% interest rate on your money, you're not getting past inflation with taxes. So I just think there's so much money that has to come into this market. This market's not going to let you in. You got to be in. If you're not long, you're wrong.
The number of new claims for unemployment benefits filed last week is released today. That's your Fox Business Report. I'm Jenny Cosola. Invested in you.
My name is Amanda Klutz, and I'm a widow. You enter a different reality when you lose your husband, especially as a parent. Life insurance doesn't fix it, but it helps. With Ethos, you can get covered in minutes. No medical exams, up to $3 million in coverage, and it's all online.
Get your free quote at ethos.com/save. That's ethos.com/save. Paid spokesperson. Time spent on application may vary. Online help.
We look good as far as the commute goes at this hour. Quiet through North County, looking good on 55 through multiple construction zones. And 70 is quiet as well. It looks good from Warrenton, into downtown. So we really are off to a good start, even quiet on the Illinois side. Now there's a little bit of a slowdown. Looks like a slow-moving train, Route 3 at Monsanto Avenue. So a little bit of a slowdown in both directions there. But for the most part, we're good. I'm Sue Thomas with traffic on 97.1 FM Talk, St. Louis Conservative.
Don't you kind of miss when times were just a little bit simpler?
Amen.
Is this sound not so nostalgic?
Yeah, I'm waiting for these. There it is.
Can you imagine now telling kids that they had to wait to dial in and that if somebody was on the phone, like their sibling was talking to somebody for an hour, then that meant they couldn't get online for the next hour? Or
Yes.
if they got online, their parent got on the phone to make an important call, you would be kicked off. Kids would flip out. Now everything is right at your fingertips, and we get irritated if our phone takes an additional 3 seconds to load something.
It
It's
used
really
to take,
sad.
I remember when you tried to download a picture and it would pixelate, and then you'd have to wait for line by line for the picture to fill in to look at something.
And we wonder why people have the attention span of a gnat.
It's
and
true.
it's because we've just gotten so used to everything being
Yes.
so accessible. And then we decide that that's still not accessible enough, that it needs to be faster. And so we come up with 4G and 5G and 6G. And I get that it's not just about speed. There's other features that come with that. But my point being, man, think about where we're going to be even in 10 years when you think about where we are right now, which is why I think this settlement involving Meta is so big. This was a $17.2 billion settlement involving dozens of states' attorneys general across the United States. And Missouri is actually going to receive a chunk of that. So we're likely going to be receiving between $100 and $152 million as part of this settlement, which is not much compared to some of these other states. But hey.
Yeah, California's getting $2 billion. $2 billion with a B.
And I wonder how they determined how much each state was going to get.
That could have been
I don't
population. I mean, they've got many, many millions more people than we do.
Right, but do you think that was the only factor?
Well, if they were all in the lawsuit together, I don't know why the awards would be given out. Maybe each independent state negotiated its own portion of the settlement. I can't imagine why Missouri wouldn't have asked for more. But the key here is that money not be wasted. If you're going to bring it in for that, use it for something that fixes the problem. Use it for good, like for education or educating children on the threats of social media.
All the gambling money is going to do that, Mark. That's helping the schools.
Yeah, that's it.
Now, let me explain what this is going to do. So this, not only does Meta have to pay this, by the way, Meta, just to make sure we're clear on this, it includes Facebook and Instagram.
Okay.
So TikTok's not involved, YouTube's not involved. Maybe that's coming down the pipeline.
Oh, they'll sue them now.
I'm sure they will, yeah, now that this has been playing out the way it has. But for now, we're talking about Facebook and Instagram. So not only do they have to pay out the $17.2 billion, but what they also have agreed to do is put these new safeguards in place. So that includes, for example, a 2-hour daily time limit. The apps have to shut off at night by default. No notifications during school hours. I think that's key, because how many of us, when you hear your phone go off, it's like you get stressed out if you see it dinging and you know you have notifications coming in.
You shouldn't
and
even keep it in your bedroom.
Oh, I know, because you have this natural desire to want to pick it up and read it.
Put it in sleep mode, and it won't do that.
I do. I always have mine in sleep mode. Parents are able to block the algorithmic feeds. Parents can also disable autoplay. I hate autoplay. And then stronger parental supervision controls. I mean, this is a really big win, because you think about the way that these platforms have been able to develop these algorithms where, you search one thing and then the next, like Dolly Parton, for example. After I saw one video of Dolly Parton, my entire feed was covered in it. And you don't even realize that 30 minutes later, you've gone down a rabbit hole and you've discovered stuff about Dolly Parton or somebody else that you had no intention of ever learning. But you just kept getting more videos and just kept clicking on them.
I'm in support of the time limit idea. I think that's a good one. The bigger issue that this doesn't address is the parental responsibility that was abdicated to begin with. And we're all guilty of it. I'm sure I've been guilty of it, because keeping up with it is impossible. The kid's gone half the day. But you can get their phone right now and set parental limits on almost all of those apps. And very few parents ever do it. You can control what they can access on their internet browser on their phone. You can put parental controls on all of it already, and most people don't do it. So what we're saying here is, all right, Meta, we're going to put it on you to do the job that most parents decided not to do. It's your fault. You owe us $17 billion. So in a way, it kind of saddens me that this was a lawsuit about our lack of responsibility, and the attorneys general are laughing all the way to the bank in these big states. Who knows where the money's going to go? What the next effort should be is to make sure that the money is spent on something other than being wasted and stuck into the general fund.
Mm-hmm. I mean, no, you're right. There is definitely a lack of parents being plugged in. They don't even. I wonder how many parents even realize that you can do that.
Well, I mean, come on.
So when you're like, let's say you were paying your daughter's cell phone bill, right?
Oh, of course.
So the idea is then you should have control over what she's searching for and who she's talking to.
Ask her how many times it's been turned off.
So give me an example of what you'd be able to do. Are you able to then type in specific things that you don't want her to be able to search in an internet browser? Or are you talking specifically when it comes to Facebook, Instagram, apps like that?
I cannot specifically speak to what the parental controls are within Facebook and Instagram or TikTok for that matter. I assume that there are some parental controls you can put in place there. I'm talking about your ability to control what your child has access to on their phone when it comes to the internet. You can put limits on all of those apps. My wife's done it before. There's a time limit on it. You can't be on it more than 2 hours. Let them come and beg you for more time. No, we're not doing that.
Mm-hmm.
Serves as a good form of punishment as well. Like you're not getting your homework done. You had 20 late assignments. We're turning off this app until that gets fixed. So there are lots of things you can do in terms of restrict. If you can't restrict the content, you can certainly restrict access to the app. That's what parents need to have been doing before, but they're not doing it. So now this lawsuit is putting that responsibility back on Meta, which, I mean, ultimately somebody's got to do it, I guess. And if there's proof that they intentionally designed these algorithms to hook these children. Well, guess what? You've been hooked too.
I think that's the big
doom
question,
scroll
right?
all day on Facebook or TikTok or Instagram to see the next video or Threads? You're hooked too.
But I think that's kind of the center of this whole argument, because there's no way that you could probably argue that they're not intentionally creating algorithms to hook us, not just the kids, to hook all of us. And if you are not glued to your phone, then let me give you a pat on the back. Congratulations. I am good about at times putting my phone down, but not. I know I have been way too addicted to my phone. And I waste time on it.
It's a time suck. There's no doubt about it. You sit there and you're watching a video, and because it knows what you like. So I'm watching a video on somebody shooting a .50 caliber rifle at a target a mile away, and they intentionally drag that out to where it's 45 seconds, a minute and a half for you to get to the end of it. And then by that time, the algorithm is. By the end of the day, you'll see 60 more videos of people shooting guns because it knows that's what you have some interest in.
Our algorithms are very different, Mark. See, but that's what I'm talking about. It's the intention right there, the intentionality with Meta to create this algorithm that's going to specifically target, I say teens, but like it's making sure that that it's harder for you to put the phone down, that you're going to get that next video that you decide is worth it to watch because it's 15 seconds. And then, like you said, by the time you watch that one, well, then there's 10 more that you decided you wanted to watch.
You're also a grown-ass adult who can stop that if you choose to, and most people have chosen not to. The question here is, should they be able to do that to our kids? And ultimately, the resounding answer in this lawsuit has been no. You need to put some guidelines and controls here because parents, number one, aren't doing it, and I guess the argument was parents shouldn't be responsible for that because you shouldn't have designed it this way to begin with.
Someone just
correct?
Yeah, I agree. But I mean, the algorithms are only, as AI is more of a thing that we use in our everyday life, think about how much smarter these platforms are going to be. Someone just texted me and said they should take all that money and put it into better parks and playgrounds for kids. The opposite of the instant dopamine releases would be just kids and dirt.
I don't disagree with that, but you have to get them out of the house and get them over there, right?
But that if they don't have the access to their phone because they're putting a 2-hour limit on it, they're at night, you can't access it like you used to, it would create this feeling of like, okay, well, I can't do this, so I might as well go outside.
What about their computer? What about the computer games they play hours and hours and hours on in the basement? Same thing.
But would you
put some time limits on it?
You'd have to put a cap
Parents
on
need
that.
to put some time limits on
I
it.
assume you can do the same thing as a parent where you can limit the Call of Duty or something. Is that still popular?
Yeah, I think it is.
That you would be able to put some sort of a safeguard in place as a parent, a parental control, to say, like, this shuts off after 30 minutes. I'm sure most people are thinking, no one just plays COD for 30 minutes, Kim. I've never played COD.
That's exactly what they
clearly.
were thinking.
But I'm just saying, you should not be playing a video game as a kid for a terribly long time. I mean, a lot of these kids, they don't even go outside. They don't even go outside. They go to school, they come home, they don't talk to anybody, they go in their room, they go in the basement, and then they just sit in front of a screen, and then it's just lather, rinse, repeat every single day. And then you get to the weekend, and it's like, well, that's all you've been doing for the whole week, so you really have no desire to even go outside anymore and make friends with actual 3D humans.
What we need to do here is, Debbie Kaufman says, you all act like parents should parent. A lot of them have abdicated that responsibility, which is why we're in many of the situations we're in today, Debbie, I would say. But maybe what we need to do next is get a hold of the governor's office or the speaker's office, who's going to be responsible for deciding how this money is spent, the legislators, and have one of them demand that it not be wasted and thrown into the general fund. If we've got, what was it, $140 million? Is that all it was?
From Meta? No, I heard it was between 100 and 152. The exact amount.
Okay, so I hit the middle there somewhere.
Really, yeah,
but it's not $2 billion. In
No.
California, they're getting $2 billion. What do you think they're going to do with that? They're going to waste it. Let's make sure the money is at least applied toward. Maybe it's applied toward a statewide education effort, TV ads, radio ads, newspaper if need be, or digital, I should say these days. To get parents' attention. Put the ads on Facebook. Buy ad space on Facebook and say, if you live in the state of Missouri, here's how you take control of your kids' social media. Maybe that's what they spend
Yeah,
money on.
maybe you just need information for the parents to know this is even possible.
Because as George Soros has proven, you can drop $100 million on an ad campaign and you can change people's minds, sometimes for the worse in most cases. In his case, with Amendments 4 and 5 and the original Amendment 3. We're going to talk more about the current Amendment 3 and some of the garbage I saw on Facebook yesterday from conservatives who are online actively encouraging people to vote against an amendment that would save thousands of unborn babies. We're going to talk about that when we come back.
Good morning to you. We're looking pretty good on the roads, but we just had a report of an accident. It sounds like it was Highway N near 64, and it may be on that ramp, and I am seeing a little bit of volume on the ramp from Highway N to eastbound 64. Police are on the way there to check that one out and try to help. But for the rest of the area, we are quiet, and that's both the Missouri and Illinois sides. So with that exception, a nice quiet start to the day. I'm Sue Thomas with traffic on 97.1 FM Talk, St. Louis Conservative.
Hey, Retirement Advisor Group is working hard for you, and I hope that you will pay attention to that because they want you to understand some of the challenges you'll face when you step away from the paycheck. When you've got all your dreams that you want to do, you're going to travel maybe to Europe, you're going to hit the national parks, whatever it happens to be, go fishing, camping. You got to be able to pay for it. You got to have structured, steady income coming in the door. Maybe part of that is Social Security. Maybe if you're lucky, you've got a pension coming from somewhere, a teachers union, or maybe you worked for a corporation that still had a pension. Maybe you're a public servant, you get a pension. And then you've got that chunk of money that you've set aside separately that is possibly invested in the market. That goes up, that goes down. What happens if it all goes 40% of it, 50% disappears just as you're stepping away for retirement? These are the things they talk to you about at the Retirement Advisor Group. It's things you need to understand whether you end up working with them or not, and they will sit down with you for free. So call Bob and Tammy Kershaw at 314-993-9494. Say, I heard Mark talking about this. He made me realize I should probably pay a little more attention to this 401k money or 403b money to protect it. What are you doing over there? They'll give you a copy of their book, and they'll be glad to help you. Go online anytime to retirementkey.com. A little mammoth Van Halen for you this morning. That'll get the blood pumping. I love that. And then I get to talk about this.
That is without a doubt the dumbest thing I've ever heard.
All right. So you have a problem and you have a solution. And some people aren't happy unless the solution deals with 100% of the problem. And this is what we're facing this year with Amendment 3. I just got to tell you, I kind of went sideways yesterday on Facebook, and I'm sorry, but this is the deal. I run across a Facebook page set up by Jennifer Barker, and it is a group of people who are, I don't question the fact that they're conservative people and that they're pro-life, but it's filled with a bunch of people who claim that they're holier than thou on Amendment 3, and that because Amendment 3, which would reverse in large part the mistake that was made in 2024 on Amendment 3, which is legalizing all abortions at any time during gestation up to the day of birth. That's the situation in the state of Missouri right now. Thousands of innocent lives were snuffed out in the last 2 years because of what happened in 2024. Thousands of babies were murdered in their mother's womb because of Amendment 3 and its passage. It barely passed in 2024. Amendment 3 this time is very different. It reverses that. And it doesn't allow abortion on demand up until 36 weeks. What it does do is it allows some exceptions for rape, for incest, for anomalies up to a certain point in the pregnancy. Now, that was put in there to let people know, okay, if your biggest concern is the maybe 1% of abortions and I don't even know if it's that high. That's the number I've heard thrown out there. 1% of abortions are connected to potentially rape, which is way down, crime-wise, numbers-wise, or incest, which has to be a minuscule problem in the state of Missouri, or Illinois for that matter, but in the state of Missouri, or anomalies. Now, you could have a doctor abuse that and say, this is an anomaly that is going to make your life very difficult. But under that excuse, a doctor could allow a woman to go in and abort her child. I'm not happy about that. I don't want abortion. I don't like abortion. I think it's murder. I think God put you in the womb, knew you when they put you in the womb from the moment of conception. I don't think that was a mistake. However, assuming that those anomalies and all that are really just 1% of the problem, do you really want to vote no on Amendment 3 just because of that 1%? Meanwhile, the other 99% of babies are ripped out of their mother's womb with a vacuum cleaner? Is that okay with you? That's my argument to these people. They're trying to argue that this is not, and they're bashing Missouri right to life.
Yeah, so I personally know Jennifer Ann Barker. Let me just say this. Very sweet woman. She has had very strong feelings about Amendment 3 and has been speaking out about it for months. And yeah, I think her heart's probably in the right place. She's trying to protect all lives. She feels like this doesn't go far enough. But unfortunately, the reality is for people like Jennifer who they don't see it, is that you might not ever get to that point, sadly. I actually do not agree with any exceptions. I don't think there should be exceptions. And maybe not many of you agree with me. I don't care. That's my stance on it. But point being, you got to move the ball down the field. And I don't even like using that analogy with this, but point being, like, we got to take the win where we can get it. Right now, we basically have no restrictions on abortion in the state of Missouri. We are one of the most pro-abortion states in the entire world, not just the country, the world. This is a win. We are moving in the right direction. So you have to know that this is protecting lives. So you get this win, and then you start trying to do other things that are in the direction that I think we'd all like to go as pro-lifers.
I agree. And I don't understand why people would be out actively campaigning against something that would save thousands of unborn babies. That's for me, that overpowers anything else in that argument. You have an opportunity. So yes on Amendment 3, and remind your friends and neighbors. All right, quick break. Back with more. We'll have the St. Louis Morning Brief and our buddy Tom Ackerman with more on this Orioles series when we come back.
Disaster strikes Nepal and Tibet. I'm Carmen Roberts, Fox News. More than 1,300 people are missing, including 700 foreign tourists, with about 50 Americans among them. A massive flood caused by possibly the collapse of a glacier led to the disaster. Fox meteorologist Adam Klotz explains.
Really horrible situation. Originally looked like a 5.2 earthquake, so we saw this seismic activity, but this was not an earthquake at all. All of this seismic activity coming just from that rock slide, just from that glacier breaking off, ultimately hitting the ground and moving those sensors. So this was a massive break, and you saw it fall from really high altitudes, right? So the Himalayan mountains, very, very tall, and you get this slide that starts to shake the entire earth.
Police in Nepal say at least 273 people have died in that massive flood. The Qatari Prime Minister is in Tehran to meet with Iranian officials today. Fox's Trey Yingst has more from Tel Aviv.
The defense will make their closing arguments first. Reddington said he will only need about 30 minutes, so half of the allotted.
And the Secretary of State, Marco Rubio, said that the U.S. is leaning into economic D-Day sanctions. And here's more from Trey Yingst.
The visit comes as President Trump told Al Jazeera that the U.S. is achieving a very big victory, but the war will continue as long as necessary. Another report crossed of an oil tanker being hit with an unknown projectile in the Strait of Hormuz earlier this week. The IRGC warned Wednesday that the strait would not be opened until the United States accepts Iranian demands.
And closing arguments are just hours away in the Massachusetts trial of Lindsay Clancy, who killed her 3 children.
The defense will make their closing arguments first. Reddington said he will only need about 30 minutes, so half of the allotted time.
Fox's Nate Foy and Plymouth. America's listening to Fox News.
When I hit my 50s, I felt like things were slowing down.
This is Sandra's Metamucil story.
I started taking Metamucil for digestion, but had no idea it would impact so much more. Not only did Metamucil help me feel more regular, but my heart health saw the benefits too.
Metamucil. One simple routine, 4 health benefits. Digestive health starts here. Go to metamucil.com for more details.
The future of cornhole is here. From casual backyard games to professional ACL tournaments, the Cornhole app is your all-in-one hub for the game you love. Keep score, track stats, follow your favorite players, and manage leagues and tournaments with powerful event tools. Whether you're a brand new player or an ACL pro, the Cornhole app connects you to the entire Cornhole community. Download the Cornhole app today.
Good morning, I'm Kim St. Ange for 97.1 FM Talk. 6:03 is our time right now, 66 degrees downtown. Here's what's making headlines across the metro here on this Thursday, August 27th. A longtime attorney with the Missouri Attorney General's office has been found alive after going missing during a hike in Wyoming. Sean McElprang started his solo climb toward Gannett Peak, Wyoming's tallest mountaintop, back on August 20th. He was then reported missing 5 days later. The AG's office says McElprang was weak but thankfully conscious when first responders reached him by helicopter. McElprang has been with the Missouri Attorney General's office for 28 years. The state of Missouri is set to get about $100 million from Meta's $17 billion settlement. 47 states' attorneys general sued Meta, accusing the company of knowingly addicting children to Facebook and Instagram and in turn causing some mental health issues. Now, no word yet from Missouri's attorney general on how that money will be spent. Meta has agreed to make several changes as part of the settlement to its platforms to make them less addicting, including a 2-hour daily time limit. St. Charles Mayor Dan Borgmeyer says he's applying for a $3 million federal grant to help cover the cost to build these tiny homes for the homeless. Hundreds of residents packed a meeting last night where city leaders unveiled the proposed tiny home community. Under the proposal, people would rent these tiny homes for $350 per month. That includes utilities. Keep in mind the project is still in the planning stages. One potential location that's being considered is just north of the Route 370 bridge. All right, in sports, unfortunately, Cards lost to the Orioles 8-7 yesterday, so they're hoping to avoid that sweep today. First pitch coming up at 1:15. We are coming up on 6:05 here this morning, 66 degrees. Thanks for starting out your Thursday morning with us. I'm Kim St. Ange for 97.1 FM Talk, St. Louis Conservative.
Good morning. We had a stall westbound 6440 past Spirit of St. Louis Boulevard, but it looks like they've moved it off to the shoulder. Same thing, we had one eastbound 70 approaching 5th Street, but it's now on the shoulder too. So no real delays at this hour, at least on the interstates. Now, northbound 55, oh, dang it, just when I say that. Yep, okay, there is now an accident on northbound 55. It's north of Hillsborough Road, north of Festus. And in that area, so this is south of McNutt, we've got a report of an accident in the construction zone. So expect some slow-moving traffic, and then things open up into downtown. We are quiet on the Illinois side. This report brought to you by I3 Broadband. I'm Sue Thomas with traffic. 97.1 FM Talk, St. Louis Conservative.
All right, that northwest flow is back. Coming up on 7 minutes after the hour, we're at 66 degrees. You can take the Marc Cox Morning Show with you wherever you go. Listen to the show from anywhere, any time of the day, always on our free Odyssey app.
All right, good morning to you. Welcome back to the Marc Cox Morning Show. 27th of August, and there's a little bit of a northwest flow out there. I just want to remind you of that since Dave Murray brought it up and Kim Minch made reference to it. But whatever that northwest flow is, apparently it's going on vacation next week. Sue Thomas was commenting on this earlier. Did you look at the highs for next week? 97, 98, 99. So just if you thought we were out of the woods, you have to bear in mind where you live, and we will potentially be on hell's front porch until October.
You know what? I'll take 97 degrees over what's happening right now in Nepal. I mean, this is
I saw that video.
This is just crazy. Of the flooding coming in. They're saying 270 plus people have been killed. They're saying, what was it, up to 50 Americans? Like, I think 47 was the count right now. And I mean, the way that this water came in and just destroyed the area, I'll guarantee you that death toll will continue to climb.
Yeah, a lot of houses through some of these gorges, you can see they're there when the flood starts, and then they just start to crumble. This, they think, was caused by a glacial collapse at some point up in the mountains where I guess it hit the river and it just funneled down these narrow little gorges. And by the time it got to widen out to where people had been living for centuries, it just took out a bunch of the homes with it. And there's awful video of people you can see on the ground trying to get to higher ground, and the wall of water just takes them away.
I know.
So they may. I don't even know when they'll get to. Somebody described it this morning as a developing country. That's a kind way of saying it's a third world country, and rescue efforts are going to be difficult, if not impossible, in some cases. And getting to a true death toll might be impossible.
Well, don't you think this search is going to go on for weeks and weeks?
It's
and
got
weeks?
to.
I mean, think about even the flooding that they had in Texas with the Christian camp
camp,
for girls.
yes, it took
I
a
mean,
long
that took
time.
a long
I
time,
agree.
and this is, I hate to say it, but that pales in comparison to what we're watching play out here as far as the actual flooding itself. But I mean, just the whole thing, very, very sad.
It was just awful, by the way. Coming up, we are going to talk to Jim Talent a little later. We'll get to him on this secret trip to Russia by why is the guy? Why did I just draw a blank on the guy? The government official who just went to Russia. What's his name? I'll think of it in a minute. I want to talk to Talon about that because everybody's acting like it was unusual. And of all people, John Brennan, who hates the President of the United States more than anybody, went on MSDNC and said, I made several trips to the Director of National Intelligence is what we're talking about. But Brennan said, I made several trips to Russia kind of undercover to have top-level talks with them when I was in that position. So he was not at all surprised that this happened, and people are trying to make more out of it. But we'll talk to Jim Talon about maybe what that was all about a little later. We're going to have a Deputy White House Press Secretary on talking about the drop in fentanyl deaths since Donald Trump became president of the United States. It is a stunning number. A lot of it has to do with securing the southern border, but there's more to it than that. It's what's going on with blowing up these boats. They've cut off the supply from Central America. They're dealing more harshly with these cartels. It goes a long way. We'll get to Taylor in the 8 o'clock hour, and Griff Jenkins as well is going to join us this morning from an undisclosed location on the East Coast. Because I don't frankly know where he is, so that's why I'm saying that. It's not top secret or anything. All right. Right now, Ethan, why don't we go ahead and get to those top stories, please?
They charge tariffs. They take advantage of us as though they were a state, and they're not a state. It's time to teach Canada you can't do this anymore.
Thank you, President Trump, for standing up for America and American workers. And it's just a matter of fairness. I am so sick and tired of hearing Barack Obama say, you need to pay your fair share. How come he never said that to Canada or any of these other countries that have taken advantage of the United States for the last 50 or 60 years? It's time.
Because this administration will do anything it possibly can to suppress the vote. That's what the SAVE Act is all about. My acronym is an acronym for the title of it. It is Suppress Americans' Voting Efforts.
James Clyburn, oh my God, the man solely responsible for Joe Biden ever becoming president of the United States, if you believe that he was ever elected to begin with. But that's James Clyburn trying to lie about the SAVE Act and insult the intelligence of his own supporters that they're incapable of getting a driver's license or an ID.
And the fact that you even have a local district attorney, instead of focusing on his own city's problems, his own city's crimes, talk about, quote, blowing it up, is reflective of how divisive and unfortunate the Democrats have made this issue. But
yeah, that's A.G. Blanche talking about this Larry Krasner joker in Philadelphia. He is the, prosecuting attorney. He's the district attorney up there. And yesterday or the day before, he made the comment that once Democrats take control, they're going to hold a ceremony and blow up the new ballroom, and then he's going to sell chunks of it and use it as a paperweight on his desk. This is how violent and sick these leftists are.
And so for me, I think we ought to let officers opt into a new payment plan that can offer up to $80,000 a year to start with a defined benefits package that is much more in line with the regional average to get us where we need to be, which is at that 1,000 police officers or more mark.
Yeah, that's Mayor Kara Spencer. She joined Mark Reardon yesterday afternoon. It's a first in many, 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 many moons. I've been at this radio station since 2010 as a host. I was filling in prior to that. And in that period of time, I'm fairly certain Francis Slay was a guest on this radio station. But since then, I can't think of a single mayor that's agreed to come on this radio station.
I mean, that's the thing. I disagree with pretty much everything Kara Spencer has said, but I actually respect her for coming on and answering tough questions.
So she came on, she talked to Reardon for a while last night. Now, what she said there is going to draw the ire of the St. Louis Police Officers Association, because while she no longer talks about defunding the police, what she wants to do is defund their benefits package. That's the bottom line. So her argument is, if we pay a police officer $70,000 a year, we give them benefits at 115%, which means basically you can extrapolate that out to double what their salary is in benefits for the cost for the city of St. Louis. So in other words, if they're paid 70, it costs the city of St. Louis 140 or 150 is what they're saying. And what her argument is here is that those defined benefits need to be reduced, not for existing officers. I won't put words in her mouth because she specifically said nobody that's on the force now would be impacted by this, but moving forward, we need to offer them more money in salary and less money in defined benefits.
So the current officers, you think that they would rather have that? Because then you have these new officers who are coming in, they're making significantly more than they are, and they've been there for 10 years, but their benefits are not as great.
Yeah, well,
so
she's
which
talking.
Is the worst of the
I don't know. I don't know how they would feel. She said you should have an option if they want to opt into the new program to make a higher salary. I don't know what that reduction in benefits looks like. Here's the mayor.
Right. And anybody who works knows that they've got a benefits package and it isn't worth their salary. It's worth something. For the rest of us, for city government employees, it's about 40%. For the average citizen, it's between 20 and 30%. It's not 115%.
Yeah.
And my argument is we need to incentivize new officers to come in. And to do that, as I talked about that $70,000 officer, all in the city is at $150,000. What if we shifted that and flipped it and offered these officers $85,000, $90,000 a year, took their benefits package down to $60,000, we'd still be far above the national average in benefits.
Is there a realistic path to
Absolutely.
that, though?
Look, and I think this is important here. I'm not arguing that we should change any of the benefits for any existing police officers, but if we are going to get serious about recruiting new officers, we've got to get serious about a compensation package that makes sense. Right size it.
That's what that was. The mayor. She sounded very reasonable on the air with Reardon yesterday. The Police Officers Association has some issues with this. I don't know how cops on the ground feel about it. I'm sure I'll get some text this morning if they had not heard this yet. But the police board is not cooperating with her. And right now, here's the breaking news that she announced yesterday that I did not know. If they have a lawsuit pending, that if that lawsuit is successful, and I don't think it will be, it would return control of the police back to the city. And she thinks that's a realistic possibility.
Yeah. She also was talking about how she feels like they should have 1,000 officers to be fully staffed.
She did say that.
But she's been fighting tooth and nail to make sure that they don't have any additional funding because she's saying that it would lead to layoffs within the city.
They have a serious...
So how can you make that argument and be taken seriously about, I really want to make sure we get up to full, the whole 1,000 officers for the city of St. Louis, but you don't want to give them any additional money? I'm not sure the math works, and maybe that's what the police board is arguing. We should try to get Don Brown or someone from the police board back on to talk about that. All right, I'll play more from the mayor throughout the morning. I got a few clips from Reardon's show yesterday, but kudos to Mark Reardon for finally landing a mayor of St. Louis after all these years. They just they don't like to come on and be challenged, generally speaking. That's for sure. All right, quick break. We'll be back with the St. Louis Morning Brief.
On the roads this morning, we've had a couple of issues, and one of those is an accident down south. It's northbound 55 south of McNutt. Now, this is in the construction zone, so only the left lane is getting by, and the accident itself obviously blocking the right-hand side, but it's tricky down there. So there is a delay. Once you get past it, things open up and look pretty good into downtown. There's also just a little bit of volume on eastbound 70 approaching Forestdale. So that's approaching in that area, and it looks like we've got just a little bit of a delay behind it. That is coming down as an accident. And if you are headed in from Illinois, we look fine on the bridges downtown. I'm Sue Thomas with traffic. 97.1 FM Talk, St. Louis Conservative.
Hey, just looking at the website here for Overhead Door Company, and shout out to the overhead door driver that I saw this morning at about 4:20. I run into this guy at this. He must be on the same schedule as me. I run into him most mornings at about the same time coming down Interstate 40 toward downtown. So a shout out to you if you're out there working hard already. If you go to the overheaddoorstlouis.com website, you'll see that a couple things going on. They've got some job openings over there. If you're looking for a job, you have the skill set of being able to install garage doors. I'm sure they'll teach you how to do that if you're skilled in that area. They've got some administrative positions open. Great company to work for because they've been around for 100 years. And when you take a look at their website, the first thing you see is they're offering a $500 rebate with the purchase of a new garage door. So if you're in the market for that, that's a great opportunity. Take advantage of it. You can get a quote right there on their website. You can schedule a repair, and they do repairs 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. In other words, they're not going to leave you stuck. They're probably not going to be at your house in the middle of the night, but they will give you standard rates, same-day service, 7 days a week. 314-781-5200 or online anytime. Tell them Mark sent you. Go to overheaddoorsstlouis.com.
The time now is 6:22, and this time check is brought to you by Paramount Men's Medical Center. Big changes are coming to Six Flags. Kim and Mark are going to have the details in the St. Louis Morning Brief.
If you had plans to go to Six Flags as early as this morning, then you would notice it is no longer called Six Flags.
Aw. I didn't get out there in time before they changed it?
I thought it was being changed to Enchanted Parks because that's the group that bought it, but it's actually being called Mid-America Adventure.
Mid-America Adventure Park? Is that it?
It just says Mid-America Adventure.
So now instead of Six Flags, you say I'm going to go to Mid-America.
I'm going to Mid-America Adventure.
Okay.
It says that its 2027 season passes are now on sale for $75 each. I don't know what they typically cost. Is that way down from
It's
a
a good
usual
question. I mean,
season pass?
it's normally $40 to get in there or more, right, for a day. So if you go twice, you've more than paid for it. That's not bad.
Here's what I want to know. Is it just the name, or can we expect other changes? Because this article doesn't talk about that. Is that really the main? Surely there's something else coming.
I would hope so. I mean, the complaints I heard about over the years were cleanliness and attention to detail and things like that. That people were concerned about. It kind of slid downhill a little bit. And will this new company be bringing in some new rides a new ride every year or something to generate a little bit of interest?
Yeah. I'll tell you, I've not been to Six Flags in I don't know how many years, since I was probably in middle school.
It's been a while. I've taken my daughter out there, and then I've dropped her off a time or two to meet friends. All legally, all within the confines of whatever you had to be. I think at the time it was 14 to be dropped off. Now they've raised it.
Young.
Now they've
14?
raised it, I think. Yeah.
Maybe I'm just not as trusting as I should be, but 14 seems really young to just drop the kids off. Anyway, did you hear about this Deputy Attorney General with Missouri, Sean McElprank?
Yes.
I really hope I'm saying his name correctly, but he had gone hiking in Wyoming. He was doing a solo hiking trip. He was trying to basically get to the highest mountaintop there, Gannett Peak, and went missing. So goes August 20th on this hiking trip. 5 days later, he's reported missing, and then they ended up finding him, but they had to get a helicopter up to him. Said he was conscious, but he was, not in great shape, it sounds like.
How did they discover where he was? Did it say?
Didn't say. Just said that they sent a helicopter.
So many hikers take a GPS unit with them these days so they can send out an SOS. I wonder if that's what happened.
Well, if you're going solo hiking, I would hope that you would bring something out like that.
Well, he's a long-time employee, right? Like 28 years or something? Yeah, I thought so.
I just, man, I don't think I would ever go on a solo hike like that. I know that's a trend for people to go on these big trips, and I feel like women in particular, that's been very popular. Maybe it's almost like to prove they can do it. Like I know women who have gone on European hiking trips by themselves, and I feel like it's almost like a badge of honor for them to say, look, I did this, I can go by myself. And that is pretty cool, you can do it, but man, I don't care enough to have that badge of honor to go on a trip like that.
Yesterday we covered the death of the St. Louis Science Center employee who died while swimming.
Oh, is that how it happened?
A marathon. She was swimming some sort of ultra Ironman kind of swim out to Santa Catalina Island in California and died of cardiac arrest.
So
but
she's
done
40s?
She's in her late 40s,
yeah.
and she's done multiple Ironman competitions. I mean, those 70.3 mile competitions, she's done a number of them. Some of them back to back. Like one day she does one day she'd do another one. And you'd thought she would have, I mean, she was obviously at the peak of fitness, but cardiac arrest, had a heart attack.
That's really sad.
I know.
So Missouri set to get more than $100 million from Meta's $17 billion settlement. This is a big deal. So this is dozens and dozens, like close to 50 states' attorneys general had sued Meta, basically saying, you guys are creating algorithms that are intentionally designed to hook kids on your apps, Facebook and Instagram, that are part of Meta, and it then has created mental health issues. And so as part of this settlement, not only does Meta have to pay it out to all these different states, including Missouri, but then they also have put these safeguards in place, or are planning to put these safeguards in place, like it's a 2-hour time limit basically per day. The apps shut off at night by default, no notifications during school hours. Parents can block algorithmic feeds, which, Mark, you were saying earlier, you felt like that was something that was already in place as far as parents being able to put those safeguards in place.
Well, there are parental, safeguards if parents take the trouble to set them or enforce them for that matter, right? We've enforced it a few times over the years with time limits, and one time we just turned the thing off. So I know you can do it. The question is, are people interested in doing it? And now this lawsuit's apparently going to force Meta and Instagram to make that a little easier, and they're going to enforce some of the time limits themselves.
Yeah, Facebook and Instagram have to do it. Nothing from TikTok, nothing from YouTube, but you better believe that if Facebook and Instagram are having to do this, that's coming down the pipeline.
Yeah, they're going to see dollar signs.
Okay, so I've mentioned this before in the show, but it sounds like they've moved one step closer to actually making this happen in St. Charles City, where they have this idea to build these tiny homes. It's more or less a tiny home community for the homeless, where people would pay roughly $350 a month. That's utilities included, no deposit. It's got your basic stuff, bathroom, shower, kitchen, bedroom, living room, things like that. But it's the guy who's part of this company that would build it, he says they can live here the rest of their lives. This isn't transitional. Now, the people who'd be living there, because they're saying there's about 200 people who are homeless in St. Charles every day, they're saying that they would have to follow community rules while volunteers and partner organizations provide support services. But I would hope that they'd also have strict policies on drug use and other things like that. If you're providing the homes, but by the way, the mayor's trying to get a federal grant to make this actually happen, a $3 million federal grant. But they unveiled this project yesterday, and people have some mixed feelings about it.
Yeah. When Mayor Spencer was on Reardon's show yesterday, she kept referring to people who are homeless as unhoused.
I heard that.
That's where I would have stepped in and said, excuse me, Mayor, they're homeless. We'll be back in just a minute.
Looks like they are clearing the accident on northbound 55 south of McNutt, and it was in the construction zone. They had the right lane blocked. It looks like it may be moving out right now. Difficult to tell. But things should hopefully get better down there. It really caused a delay in that area, and it's already tricky just because it's a construction zone. Then we had a report of an accident. Now, this one is eastbound 70 approaching Forestel. One of those cameras is out, so I can't tell you what lane is blocked. And southbound 61 is pretty slow from Highway P down through the 70-64 split. And we've got a little bit of moderate volume westbound on the Poplar Street Bridge. Other than that, we look pretty good. I'm Sue Thomas with traffic. 97.1 FM Talk, St. Louis Conservative.
September 8th, baby. Can't wait. AC/DC, the Foo Fighters, going to be over here at the Edward Jones Dome. I don't know if they still call it the Dome. The Dome. They're going to be at the Dome. And it's sold out, just so you know. That's going to be a huge crowd downtown that night. Lock your doors and windows and keep your valuables out of sight, for sure. By the way, Kim, we were talking about Tom Ackerman, and lo and behold, he just walked in the door. So hit it, Ethan, please.
The great sportsmen like Tom Ackerman.
Baseball's really not a hard sport.
It is Anchor Man, not Anchor Lady.
It's like powered by coffee this morning.
Sports, sponsored by McDonald's, reminding you to round up your total for Ronald McDonald House charities on your next order.
All right, Tom, as usual, classing the place up this morning, wearing a sports coat while I've got my Sammy Hagar T-shirt on. How are you, sir?
What are you guys talking about me? What's going on?
Well, we were just talking about you and the baseball team and what we were going to.
What do you want to talk about?
Well, about how bad we've sucked against the Orioles. How about that?
Yesterday was a crazy game. It was 7-0, and I'm like, I was in the living room with my daughter who had come back from softball practice. We've been talking about baseball and softball all afternoon and evening, and I watched the game, and I'm like, this team, and I actually turned the game off. I'm like, I think I'm just going to do something else. And she goes, Dad, turn the game back on. This was like about 15 minutes later.
Wow.
And I'm like, really? She goes, yeah, I want to watch it. And I'm like, all right. So Gorman hit a home run, 7-1. And then they loaded the bases, and Burleson got a hit, 2 runs scored, 7-3. And she looks over at me. Then Walker gets a hit, 7-4. Then Nathan Church gets a hit, drives in 2, it's 7-6, and she's got a big smile on her face. She goes, I told you. I'm like, this team, I swear. And then Church steals third, and then he goes home on a ground out. In 1 inning, it's now 7-7, and she's laughing. She goes, Dad, I told you this team, this young team, she's like, you got to just roll with it. And I'm like, you're right. I do have to understand what I've been saying all season. This team is going to make mistakes. They're going to fall over, and you got to pick them back up and let them keep going. And they turned a 7-0 game into 7-7 in 1 inning. It was pretty wild.
Yeah.
As it turns out, their bullpen was lights out until they got to the 9th, and Riley O'Brien gave up that 8th run. They couldn't get anything more after that 5th inning, and they lost the game 8-7. This team's just going to be that way. I mean, they're just not that great of a baseball team. I think I've been on repeat all year telling you that there's so much talent coming in the next layer below them. It's ridiculous. Rangel Rodriguez. I'm telling you names that you will be talking about in next year. Rangel Rodriguez will be pushing for a starting spot on this team. He's the best hitter in A's Texas League. Plays for the Springfield Cardinals. He's unbelievably good. He's only 19 years old. Kind of reminds me of, I hate comparing him to players, but he reminds me of Albert Pujols. That's how good this guy is.
Wow.
He is insanely good. Rangel Rodriguez is the Cardinals' #1 prospect, not Joshua Baez, not Liam Doyle, not Tanner Franklin, not anybody. It's Rangel Rodriguez. Then they have another Baez. Jesus Baez is a shortstop who is tearing up. He actually got better when they moved him into AA.
No relation.
That'll be confusing.
So it'll be all right. So Jesus Baez is a shortstop, but they're playing him at third base. Hint, hint. They need a third baseman. They know that. He's the future at third base. Jesus Baez hit 4 home runs in 1 day just the other day. Hit 1, and then he hit 3 in the second game of a doubleheader. He is really good. Joshua Baez, we already know, has crazy power. He just strikes out a lot. So he's trying to adjust as he got moved up to the major leagues. And then all this pitching talent. So what I'm telling you is there are a lot of teams you should be watching, not just the St. Louis Cardinals. God bless them. I know these guys are trying to do what they can, and Ollie Marmol's got a pitching mess on his hands. He's throwing bullpen guys today because he doesn't have any starters left. 2 of them are on the injured list. But their talent down in Memphis and especially Springfield's crazy good right now, is off the charts. I mean, they will be a force to be reckoned with in 28. I do think 27 next year's team will be good. Now, that takes me to another conversation, and that is that Ollie Marmol will start to have a lot of pressure on him when this team gets good. I think that right now, if you're calling for Ollie Marmol's head, like if you want him fired, you're completely misguided, I think. And because it's a rebuild. They brought him in to be the right manager in a rebuild. I don't see a manager out there that would be able to take this young group of inexperienced players off to the first place NL Central title and off to the promised land. I mean, it's just not going to happen. If you don't have pitching, you can't win. They don't have it. They don't have any pitchers that have any experience in going deep into a season. None. They don't have any players on this team that have a playoff at bat on their resume except for Nolan Gorman. He's the only one that's ever stood in a batter's box of a playoff game. So Ollie has a project on his hands right now that he was chosen to be the best guy. Chaim Bloom could have fired him last year easily. It was his call, and he said, no, this is the guy I think is the best for this project that we're doing. It's a rebuild. Now, when they start to get good, Ollie, the pressure will ramp up on Ollie, and he'll be expected to take this team to the playoffs, and if he doesn't, then that's a whole other conversation.
What about Signetti? Can he coach baseball?
Signetti could do whatever he wants. Yeah.
He's the head coach of Indiana, if you're not keeping up. I'm sorry.
Even I know that
everybody
now.
knows.
That's
I'm
how
just
much.
teasing.
That's how big of an
Everybody
Indiana
knows
fan
who's
you
Chris
are, Tom.
Signetti is. Yeah.
Are they? You think they're going to win the Big Ten this year?
I think that they have a shot at it. I mean,
Okay.
Ohio State, Oregon, Indiana, USC, Washington's pretty good. I think Michigan is probably better than people give credit for. Those are 6 right there that will be in the mix. Ohio State, Oregon, Indiana, USC, the top 4, with Washington better than they used to be. And Michigan still has tons of talent. Whether they can pull it all together, we'll see. Those are 6 really good teams. SEC, I think Georgia, Texas, those are probably your best 2, maybe in a different order, maybe Texas and then Georgia. The SEC's loaded with some, great talent as always. But I think the Big Ten is a better conference at the moment. And Notre Dame is probably the one that doesn't have a conference affiliation that will be on everyone's radar as a national champion because their schedule is to their favor. They could run the table. They could be undefeated going into the playoffs. So it'll be fascinating. I mean, I would love nothing more than for Indiana to win it all again. As I said last visit on Monday, I think Indiana's roster actually is better, has more talent and more depth than last year's team. But a lot of things have to happen. You need a little magic on your side, and you got to have health. And if they have that, they're going to be just fine. Their defense might be the best in the country.
I'm going to get to see a couple of Arkansas football games this year. I know absolutely nothing about Arkansas's team. I'm going to see the Mizzou game when they play Mizzou, and then one more game we're going to go to, I think, on Parents' Weekend.
Well, that's good. Arkansas is still they're a work in progress. They've been sort of near the bottom part of the SEC. I think Missouri's an interesting team. They have a quarterback, Austin Simmons, who got demoted basically because of injury at Ole Miss and never got his starting job back. I think he's pretty good. If Ahmad Hardy could play, whether that is week 2, 3, 4, whatever it is, that elevates the running game, but their running game's good. I think Missouri's a good team. Missouri's problem is they haven't been able to beat the great teams. Like Eli Drinkowitz beats the teams he's supposed to, but he doesn't have a lot of those signature wins on his resume yet, and that's what's holding them back from being elevated into the spotlight. I think they're pretty good. I think Illinois has, a similar situation where they've had some really nice bowl wins, beating SEC teams, by the way. But Illinois, when they get on some big stages, they haven't been able to come through.
Yeah, it's like that meme with the boy and girl walking away in the background, and the boy turns around and he looks at the other girl that just passed him. You can see his girlfriend staring at him.
Yeah,
that's how everybody's looking at Signetti and their own coaches now, because they're like they came from a situation where they weren't drawing the very best players, and they suddenly won. And if they can do it at Indiana, you ought to be able to do it at Missouri. They've got the money. They've got the NIL money. Go out and get those players.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree.
It's going to be fun, man. I'm so excited for college football to be
Me
back.
too.
Starts
Me
soon.
too.
Yeah. Lindenwood plays tonight. Mizzou and Illinois play next Thursday.
Crazy.
Outstanding.
All
Thanks,
right.
Tom.
See you guys.
Appreciate
See
it.
ya.
Good to get you in here. And, I'm looking forward to a little bit of football, I'll have to say.
I actually am too. I think for women it's probably different. I actually enjoy watching football, but I don't know if I would just sit there by myself and watch it. But if I'm with my husband, or if I'm with people and I get to turn it on and you have the chili, I think it just feels cozy. You know, it's that time of the year that's starting to change.
It is more fun
temperature.
when you don't have a stake in it. I'll say. I mean, I don't know. I get so uptight when my team is playing that I don't always get to enjoy it the way I probably should. And I root for Mizzou, except obviously when they play Kentucky and basketball. I root for Mizzou, and I'll root for Mizzou when they're playing Arkansas. I won't tell my daughter that, but I told her, I said, I spent a lot of money at Mizzou. I spent a lot of money at Kentucky years ago, and now I'm spending a lot of money at Arkansas. So those other two are still going to take precedence when it comes to sports for me.
Yeah, my some of my family members are going to the Army-Navy game soon. Which is pretty cool. I've actually gone to a couple of those over the years. Usually they're freezing. I feel like the ones I've gone to, they're freezing.
Weather. That's the best football
Yeah,
weather.
but this is really cold.
Yeah, I know. All right. Coming up, we'll get to another news for you. Next hour, we got former Senator Jim Talent. Before the end of the show, we will get to White House Deputy Press Secretary Taylor Rogers, because today, I don't know if you knew this or not, today is officially Caroline Leavitt's last day as White House Press Secretary. Who's going to replace her? I don't know. I have no idea. I'm sure Taylor doesn't know that answer either. Taylor Rogers will be the one joining us in the 8 o'clock hour today. We'll be right back.
We've got some volume out there on northbound 270 at this hour, a little bit at 21, and then from just north of Big Bend up through Doherty Ferry. Now, eastbound 70 is jammed approaching Forestell, an accident there. Southbound 61, some moderate volume headed down towards 64. Now, eastbound 6440 looks great. Out west into the city. We've got some volume, though, on the Illinois side. There's a delay westbound on the Poplar Street Bridge. This report is brought to you by the Diamond Shop. Oh, they're awesome. The Diamond Shop, making St. Louis sparkle for over 100 years. I'm Sue Thomas with traffic on 97.1 FM Talk, St. Louis Conservative.
An elementary school teacher in Atlanta is making some headlines because of a special area that she's created in her classroom for her students. A fart corner. She says she has a weak stomach and she can't handle it when kids are farting nonstop. So she says, I'm going to create this little area. You just get up, you go to the little corner, you do your business, then you come back.
How's the ventilation system in there? Because I don't know about you guys, but I have a pretty good nose. I think if somebody's doing that back in the corner, I'm still smelling it in the middle of the room.
She provided spray, I believe.
She did?
Yep.
Spray?
You're supposed to do it and then spray.
So you
and
just,
then go sit down.
So you just feel comfortable, because if it's around everybody, then the thought would be that you could blame it on somebody else, right? But if you're in the corner,
Yeah, they know who
everyone
does it now.
knows who's doing it, unless you're going there with a group of 3 because you're all really gassy.
Have you seen the videos of people like in those costumes that have that blow up and you can wear them, where people spray the fart smell into the costume while the people are wearing it, and they're trying to rip the head off the thing and get out? It's really awful. It really is awful. My family did that to me one time. I was in there working, doing show prep, and they snuck in when I wasn't paying attention. They sprayed that in the room. I was looking all over the house for like a dead animal. I was convinced something had crawled into the vents and died. It was awful.
That's gross.
Until they finally admitted it. I saw them giggling, and I figured it out. I don't know. That's mean. That was mean to do that to me. Anyway, forget Florida, by the way. Baby boomers are apparently flocking to a different state, and guess why? Because they have low taxes and beaches on top of that. Now, you might have to be neighbors with Joe Biden at somewhere, but people are buying houses in southern Delaware.
Huh.
More than 40,000 people have moved to Sussex County, Delaware since 2020. It has pushed the county's population 17% higher, which is 5 times the rate of national growth. And over the same period, their population of residents 65 or older is up 23% because people are going there for apparently lower taxes. And I guess things in Florida, they don't have to put up with too many hurricanes up there. Occasionally, they get one blowing in there.
Bet it gets cold up there, though, doesn't it?
You got the wind. I mean, I bet it's beautiful, though. In fact, that was one of the places I looked at moving for a job right out of college. But the market was pretty small, and so they wanted me to pay for the plane ticket to go out there.
To go out for the interview?
And I said, there's just no way I'm paying for the plane ticket because I don't even know if I'm going to like this place. So
now you can do it over Zoom,
that was a
Kim.
no. Yeah, seriously. That was when I used to have to burn all my stuff onto a DVD. Yeah. I know you guys probably did tape. We did the DVD. But now that's not even a thing. If you told a student now you had to do that, they'd be confused.
They probably just email
you send
a link, right?
Yeah,
to a
absolutely.
Dropbox or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, so much easier.
Props to this mom-to-be. She's 8 months pregnant, and she just won a golf tournament. She won the Herman Meadow President's Cup in Maine on August 19th, and she says that despite being in the home stretch of her pregnancy, she says it's the best she's played during her pregnancy so far, and she doesn't even plan to stop.
Wow.
She's going to keep golfing as long as she can. She said that she's, I guess, a big golfer, as you can imagine, and wants her little son to be a golfer. So she's like, I'm just making sure that, we get him a pretty good start before he's even made his official debut.
I'm assuming she's using a cart and not walking it, I would think.
I would imagine.
At 8 months pregnant?
It gets pretty heavy in there.
That's pretty amazing. Well, if you live in Illinois, guess what? They've started mandated student mental health screenings in the state of Illinois this year, and they put up a 24/7 crisis line. I don't know that that's a bad thing. Clearly, student mental health is a bit of an issue these days. You got to wonder what their standards are for it. But they're trying to make it as easy as possible for students to connect to a live counselor if need be.
I think making it available is good. The only concern I would have would be if they are forcing it, who are these people who are, like, are they people who are woke who are going to say, well, you're not doing this, and so therefore maybe you're struggling? I don't know. I could see that going downhill.
I don't see a lot of those details on here.
Yeah.
Do you need a mental health screening because your parents voted for Trump?
Yeah.
I mean, in
that's
Illinois,
the kind of stuff I'm talking about.
That could be the standard. You just never know.
Yeah. You got to ask those questions.
Hopefully they use it.
Have to mention that actor Tim Curry has died. You guys know him from Rocky Horror Picture Show. I know him from Home Alone, the guy who worked at the hotel, who was trying to sneak in because he felt like Kevin McAllister was doing something funky.
Yeah, that's sad. I was saying earlier that I went to the Rocky Horror Picture Show one time. I must have been 19 or 20 years old. It was already a cult at that point, and people would throw things at you like bread and water would rain. I don't know if it was water or not. Something would rain down on you when it was raining on the screen.
So
and
wait,
it was
hon.
just weird.
Describe this
popcorn.
to me. So you would bring in water to the theater, knowing that as
They
soon
bring
as
in
that
squirt guns.
Oh,
Squirt guns.
okay. So
Yeah.
you would bring that in, and as soon as that scene came up, people
Everybody
knew you
starts
were just
squirting their
okay.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
And it was just
Did
that
you ever
movie?
see it, Sue?
I don't think I did in the theater. Fred Bottomer went multiple times because he was dating a woman who went every weekend.
It was a cult, I'm telling you.
Yes.
Didn't they used to play it at the Tivoli? It was like every
Yes.
Friday night
Yes,
at midnight.
that was a big thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The church I used to go to now owns the Tivoli.
Oh, really?
Yeah, yeah.
Well, they'll probably be
church.
showing that freak
Are
show.
they going to do the Rocky Horror Picture Show?
Not the Rocky Horror Picture Show, probably. No, the little cross-dressing and everything going on there, for sure. Yeah. All right. Coming up, we will get to Jim Talent, among other things I want to talk to him about today. It was John Ratcliffe, is the guy I was trying to think of earlier, who the head of the CIA, who flew to Russia recently, kind of top secret flight over and back, and the media was trying to make a big deal out of it. We'll see what that accomplished, if anything. We'll talk to Jim about that. We've got Taylor Rogers from the White House at 8:20, and our friend Griff Jenkins today at 8:35. Stay tuned.
A rising death toll in the Himalayas and a scramble to find the missing. I'm Carmen Roberts, Fox News. Tsunami-like floods struck Nepal and Tibet, killing at least 353 people, with more than 1,300 missing, including at least 65 tourists from America. The floods have destroyed roads and bridges, making search and rescue extremely difficult.
We've been able to access some of the affected areas where there are many, many traumatized people, but unfortunately, some of the areas can only be reached by helicopter.
Red Cross Nepal Chief David Fisher on Fox News. Geologists say that a partial collapse of a Himalayan glacier probably sparked the massive and incredibly quick-moving wall of water that decimated communities.
Initially, the U.S. Geological Survey reported an earthquake in the area minutes before the flash flood, but the USGS now believes it was a powerful landslide that struck. One theory, part of a glacier broke off, triggering an avalanche of ice and rock, which in turn caused the flood. The Red Cross says at least 10,000 families have lost their homes.
Fox's Jeff Paul in London. And now officials in Nepal fear a rising lake could spill over and cause more devastating flooding. Closing arguments will begin this morning in the trial of Lindsay Clancy, a Massachusetts woman who claims that postpartum psychosis caused her to kill her children.
Lindsay Clancy's defense lawyer, Kevin Reddington, explained while walking out of court what he hopes to accomplish and communicate with the jury.
She's just such a marvelous, sweet, innocent person.
But the prosecution is expected to convey that Clancy knew what she was doing when she strangled and killed her 3 young children.
Fox's Nate Foy in Plymouth, Mass. The Coast Guard says it seized more than 7,000 pounds of cocaine from a suspected smuggling boat off of Puerto Rico. America's listening to Fox News.
When I hit my 50s, I felt like things were slowing down.
This is Sandra's Metamucil story.
I started taking Metamucil for digestion, but had no idea it would impact so much more. Not only did Metamucil help me feel more regular, but my heart health saw the benefits too.
Metamucil, one simple routine, 4 health benefits. Digestive health starts here. Go to metamucil.com for more details.
The future of cornhole is here. From casual backyard games to professional ACL tournaments, the Cornhole app is your all-in-one hub for the game you love. Keep score, track stats, follow your favorite players, and manage leagues and tournaments with powerful event tools. Whether you're a brand new player or an ACL pro, the Cornhole app connects you to the entire cornhole community. Download the Cornhole app today.
Good morning. I'm Kim St. Ange for 97.1 FM Talk. Sunny here downtown, getting close to 70 degrees. Now it's 7:03. Here's what's making headlines across St. Louis on this Thursday, August 27th. A longtime attorney with the Missouri Attorney General's office has been found alive after going missing during a hike in Wyoming. Sean McElprang started his solo climb toward Gannett Peak, which is Wyoming's tallest mountaintop, back on August 20th. He was then reported missing 5 days later. The AG's office says McElprang was weak but thankfully conscious when first responders eventually reached him by helicopter. He's been with the Missouri Attorney General's office for 28 years. The state of Missouri is set to get about $100 million from Meta's $17 billion settlement. Dozens of states' attorneys general sued Meta, accusing the company of knowingly addicting children to Facebook and Instagram, and then in turn causing some mental health issues. Now, there's no word yet from Missouri officials on how that money will be spent. Meta has also agreed to make several changes as part of the settlement to make its platforms less addicting for children, including a 2-hour daily time limit. St. Charles Mayor Dan Borgmeyer says he's applying for a $3 million federal grant to help cover the cost to build tiny homes for the homeless. Hundreds of residents packed a meeting last night where city leaders unveiled the proposed tiny home community. Under this proposal, people would rent these tiny homes for $350 per month, utilities included. The project, I should mention, is still in the planning stages. Now, one potential location that's being considered would be just north of the Route 370 bridge. All right, in sports, you heard Tom Ackerman talking about this. The Cards lost to the Orioles 8-7, but what a game. Hoping to avoid a sweep today. First pitch is 1:15. We're coming up on 7:05, 66 degrees and sunny here downtown. I'm Kim St. Ange for 97.1 FM Talk, St. Louis Conservative.
We still have some volume this morning, eastbound 70 approaching Forest Dow, and then it's slow, kind of ramping on over 64 to eastbound 70 from the Wentzville area. Now, eastbound 64 does slow a little bit, but it's not until 170 through Big Bend, and eastbound 70 really isn't bad headed into downtown. A couple of slow pockets appearing along northbound 270, north of 21 on up through Manchester. We've got some slow-moving traffic westbound on 44 in the construction zone there as you head toward Grand, and a little bit of volume, too, westbound on the Poplar Street Bridge. I'm Sue Thomas with traffic. 97.1 FM Talk, St. Louis Conservative.
Nowhere near that right now. It's actually comfortable here. We're hovering just under 70 degrees downtown, and we're just before 7:07. As a reminder, you can take the Marc Cox Morning Show with you wherever you go. You can listen to the show any time of the day. You'll find it on our free Odyssey app.
We made it into Thursday. Enjoy today. Highs in the 80s. It's going to be in the mid to high 90s apparently next week. It is coming back, baby, with a little bit of a vengeance. So if you got plans, you got to get the grass mowed, whatever, you may want to try to knock that out today before that stuff comes back. No doubt about it. All right, plenty to get to this hour. We're going to talk about to Senator Jim Talent about what's going on over there in the Middle East and with the war in Russia, which has really kind of been the war with Russia and Ukraine, which has kind of been maybe overshadowed here recently. It certainly hasn't been in the headlines as much. And then John Ratcliffe takes a quick trip over there to Russia, and suddenly everybody's speculating on what's going on. So we're going to talk more about that for you coming up. New from overnight in the WNBA situation here, where they have now banned Enes Kanter, Freedom, the other guy from who's claiming that he's going to join the WNBA. They banned him from the Chicago arena completely.
I saw he was banned from one of the arenas.
Chicago Sky.
So it's just that one, or is this
just that one for
another
now?
One?
For now, it's just that one. I wouldn't be surprised to see the other teams do the same thing to show some sort of solidarity with this nut job in Chicago who did this. But we'll talk more about that in a few minutes and what the reason for it was, because honestly, there's no reason at all. He didn't do anything wrong. The WNBA player confronted him, not the other way around. It's just they have mishandled this. It's been the biggest PR disaster that you can imagine for a league that was, for the first time in its creation, starting to experience some level of success thanks to Caitlin Clark and Sophie Cunningham, and they've just blown every opportunity.
Yeah. People were pointing out Enes Kanter's wingspan. Did you see those images, where
6'10".
his arms are stretched out, and just comparing that to the women? And I don't know how you could make the argument that he would not have an advantage.
Oh, it's just science, and they don't want to talk about
science is
the science
real, right? Except in this case,
because if they wrote it correctly to take a DNA test to prove that you weren't a man, they would, I suspect, already have players who are playing, and they'd have to kick them out of the league. It's got to be the only reason why they would be taking such a hard line on this.
I guess I agree. I feel like they were like finally on like a positive trajectory, and it's just completely crashed and burned. The only people I feel like one of the main reasons people are watching now is because they want to see what other stupid crap they're going to do now, like what T-shirt some woke coach is going to wear to try to intimidate Sophie Cunningham or something like that. It's for the drama of it. It's not because they actually like watching the game.
I think you're right. Absolutely. All right, Ethan, let's go ahead and get to those top stories, please.
And so for me, I think we ought to let officers opt into a new payment plan that can offer up to $80,000 a year to start with a defined benefits package that is much more in line with the regional average to get us where we need to be, which is at that 1,000 police officers or more mark.
So that's Mayor Kara Spencer. She was on our radio station yesterday on the Mark Reardon Show, arguing to change the pay scale for city police officers by basically reducing their fringe benefits that they get as a result of that. Their defined benefits or health insurance, pension kind of stuff moving forward. And that is not, as you can imagine, going over very well with the members of the PD and also the Police Officers Association.
You recall during the Biden administration, we had inflation up to 9% and higher. Gas prices were over $5 a gallon. And so the mess was created by the Democrats.
Yeah, Carlos Jimenez, who's a congressman, talking about this affordability issue and the way that it needs to be discussed and remind people that gas prices were higher under Biden and overall prices were driven up because of his policies.
She was unique. I mean, she was amazing. And to lose her, it's like you lose a member of the family.
I think a lot of people felt that way about Dolly Parton. That was the president yesterday expressing his admiration for her. This morning, if you go on Google and you type in her name, it's pretty cool. Some butterflies fly up from the bottom of the screen, and a nice little reference to her song, I Will Always Love You, is on there as well.
If there's an interest in pursuing something like reentry, then the next step would be determining what path it would take. And there's really two paths. One is a state constitutional amendment like Better Together. The other path is a board of electors or board of freeholders. They would meet for a year, come up with a plan, and then that plan would be put before the voters, requiring majorities in both the city and the county to pass.
Ethan, I feel like I need you to cue up the no merger minute that we play so famously when they tried to pull Better Together over our eyes just a few years ago. Do you have that over there?
This is your no merger minute.
That's sick. Those are corrupt bastards, Chris.
You need to get your head out of your butt, focus on the real issues.
But we have to pass the bill so that you can find out what is in it.
How about news?
Yeah, my position on this has not changed one iota. What I would point out, though, is that sometimes through omission, the media leads you down a path it wants you to follow, right, where they will tell you they're just covering the news of the day, but sometimes they're creating the news of the day. So out of nowhere, Channel 4 decided to have on Joe Blanner, who was a freeholder the last time around Better Together came up, and talked about the need for the city to either move back into the county or to merge the two cities in the county, like the government, merge all the offices. There wasn't much flavor for that in the city the last time around, right? I think they failed to appoint people to that board of freeholders, and eventually the whole thing died on the vine. They're very clearly at it again. Kara Spencer mentioned it. I've got sound from her a few months ago talking about the need for regional cooperation. She's talking about St. Charles County, too. I don't know how that plays into the whole thing if you live in St. Charles County or Jefferson County or Lincoln County. But it's something to keep in mind. But here's the deal. So out of nowhere, Channel 4 does a story yesterday on 6 minutes long with this Joe Blanner guy talking about the need to allow St. Louis City to become a city within St. Louis County, just like he mentions Baldwin and Chesterfield and these other cities. There are major differences. But go to cut 9 where he answers some of the opposition. They were reading text messages people were sending into the show.
One comment came from someone named Diane who said, I want no part of a city-county merger. Stop pushing this idea over and over again. And a lot of people have said things along these lines and wondered, why have these discussions been renewed and why is this happening now?
I think that sentiment is a pretty common sentiment as to merger. I think that's why it's really important to draw the distinction as you did in the beginning. What's been discussed in the past has varied. Some of the times in the past it's been merger, like Better Together, or in 1926 or in the 1960s. And sometimes it's been a lesser change. For instance, MSD, Metropolitan Sewer District, came about.
Yeah, just so you know, if they were to bring the city back into the county, it's still a merger. It's a merger because the county would take over a whole bunch of things the city currently does. I have no idea how they would handle the awful finances the city faces right now with the earnings tax. I don't think that would extend beyond the city lines of the city of St. Louis, but you never know. And the bigger point of that is, Kim, that after 60 or 70 years in the wilderness of single-party rule, where the city of St. Louis has taken every bad decision people ever thought of and put it into place, and now they're broke effectively, and hundreds of thousands of people fled the city over that 60 or 70 years. Now they want to bring that brand of politics into St. Louis County. Mm-hmm. If you live in the county, maybe you don't mind. I know I would sure as hell mind.
Well, I hate to use this analogy, but it's like the person drowning. You have to be careful because if not, they're going to pull you down with them.
Yeah, I used the analogy earlier that if you're dating someone and they have $100,000 in debt and you marry them, guess what? You have $100,000 in debt overnight. Now, maybe you love them enough to do that. I don't know. I'm just giving a little bit of friendly dating advice there. All right, coming up, we will get to former Senator Jim Talent, and he's going to be with us right after the break here from the Reagan Center. We're going to get to him. A little later, we're going to talk to a deputy press secretary from the White House talking about the sharp decline in fentanyl deaths under this administration. Back in a minute.
Eastbound 70 this morning, still some slow-moving traffic, although it's better, out at Forestel. And southbound 61, some slow pockets headed for 64. And then eastbound 70 pretty much opens up into downtown. 64, there is some volume at Timberlake Manor. And westbound is lined up, headed for Big Bend. We had an earlier accident around there. Southbound 170 slowing at 64. 55 this morning, some slow-moving traffic through the construction zones, especially at 141, but it's also slow ramping on to northbound 270, which has slow pockets between there and Manchester. And if you're headed in from Illinois, some moderate volume for the length of the Poplar Street Bridge. This report is brought to you by I3 Broadband. I'm Sue Thomas with traffic. 97.1 FM Talk, St. Louis Conservative.
The time now is 7:20, and this time check is brought to you by Paramount Men's Medical Center. You still got time to join us on our socials. We've got YouTube, X, Facebook, and Rumble all rolling right now, so come on and hang out with us.
They charge tariffs. They take advantage of us as though they were a state, and they're not a state. And they've taken our car industry, and they've taken our agriculture industry.
Yeah.
You know, the farmers can't sell anything in there because the tariffs are so enormous, and yet they want to sell in us without any tariffs. So I had a deal that was a pretty good deal, you know, quite good, because they're afraid that I won't do any business. In other words, we won't trade. They don't have anything that we have to have. Okay, we can get by. I mean, there are a couple of things that would make it a little inconvenient, but we could get them elsewhere. And it's time to teach Canada you can't do this anymore.
All right, former Senator Jim Talent with us right now. Great having him on again. Jim, how are you this morning?
Hey, I'm fine, Mark.
How you feeling about I don't know, your maple syrup supply now that we're tariffing everything out of Canada?
Yeah, you know, the president's right about the agricultural tariffs that they have, and on a whole lot of things, particularly dairy. You know, we have a fair number of dairy producers in Missouri, and it was the same thing when I was in office. I mean, tariffs as high as like 300%, plus quotas and all that. So basically, it's total protection of their farm sector. And this is a reflection of the situation around the world when the president got reelected. I mean, if you look at tariff schedules of our trading partners versus the United States, you'll just see consistently in country after country, their tariffs were much higher than ours. So now we have a couple of dozen trade agreements concluded, including with our biggest partners, you know, South Korea and the UK and the EU and the rest of it. And they're all a lot fairer for the United States, which is fine with me. You know, I never got heavily into trade issues, Mark, except on a targeted basis when Missouri was involved. But I used to ask people, I said, you know, I'm fine with trade deals, but can we get some good ones once in a while? You know, why are we always behind the eight ball? So I'm glad it's being fixed. And on top of this, you know, we really have been, in the last 20 years in particular, picking up all the cost of their defense. I mean, beginning about 20 years ago, all around the Western democracies, they basically just stopped maintaining a defense establishment, which is not how an ally ought to act.
Well, you know, I ran a bite with Glenn Beck yesterday, Jim, where he basically laid out who this Carney guy is and the fact that he hired some former Obama-Harris official to work at the top levels of his government to try to thwart Donald Trump, and that he was actually not working on behalf of the best interest of Canadians, but he was working on behalf of the best interest of globalists who want to see Donald Trump's trade policies fail because they have benefited from them for 60 or 70 years now. I've never understood that. The left in this country will go out and campaign. How many times have we heard Barack Obama say, you need to pay your fair share? But he has no problem with the unfairness of us being tariffed on our goods when we're not doing the exact same thing to foreign goods coming into this country.
Yeah, what's motivating Carney and a few other Western European politicians is their economies are doing very poorly because of their policies. But President Trump's unpopular in those countries. Now, he's pretty popular in Eastern Europe, in the Middle East, in Asia, in a whole lot of other places. And so what they're doing is this is their way of propping up their own governments at home. And I'm not going to, you know, as an old politician, I'm not going to say it won't work, at least temporarily. But you're right. It's hurting, and the president's right. It's hurting their economies further. I mean, 2/3 of Canadian exports go to the United States. Yeah. And it's just simply what the president said is just simple reality. I mean, it's an annoyance for us to have issues with trade with Canada, but it's a much bigger problem for them. So we'll see how long they want to tolerate the economic loss in order to vindicate their, what is at bottom, a sense of insecurity vis-a-vis the United States. In other words, they've always, it bothers them that we're more prosperous and more powerful. I mean, let's just say it. And so Carney's indulging in anti-Americanism as a political tactic. I think that's a lot of what's behind this.
As frustrated as some of these other countries' leaders are, certainly the perception of the United States, though, has to be vastly different under Trump's leadership than it was under Biden. I think people just didn't take us seriously. They didn't feel like any threat would actually come to fruition. And Iran has learned firsthand that Trump is going to back up what he says with action.
Yeah. And for most of the world, it's actually a relief to deal with an American administration that is forthright about our interests and wants to work together in common interests and wants to make deals, which is what's happening. I mean, look at the Japanese situation. Again, I mentioned South Korea, Southeast Asia. We just signed a defense pact with Malaysia. I mean, now, does the president say things sometimes that I think go a little too far? I mean, he trolls people. I think he's trolled the Canadians too much. But this is not kindergarten. You know what I mean? People ought to be able to make arrangements that are in the interests of their country. And if they can't, they can't. But it's up to them. I think the ball's in their court now.
Well, in case you're interested, Jim, I'm going to be taking a cruise on Lake America soon, so you're welcome to join me if you'd like.
Yeah. Although we ought to start calling it by state names or something. I'm trying to remember my geography, Mark. What is that lake mostly near? I mean, is it Ohio?
Lake Ontario? I don't know. It doesn't border. No, that's Lake Erie borders Ohio. Maybe upstate New York.
I thought it was New York when I looked at the map.
Yeah, maybe upstate New York. Lake New York.
All right, I can go with Lake New York. We got 50 states. They deserve some naming rights too.
He doesn't want to. You don't want to give Hochul any credit for that, though. Probably up there in New York. Jim Talon, thank you, and I'll let you know when the cruise is coming up.
Okay, thanks, Mark.
All right. We'll talk soon. Yesterday, the president, if you missed it, suggested we change the name from Lake Ontario to Lake of America, just to goad that Doug Ford guy up there in Ontario who seems to think his opinion on this matters a great deal, because it probably doesn't in the long run. All right. Yesterday, the governor of Pennsylvania said some very nasty things about RFK Jr., and RFK Jr. has fired back with some facts, baby, and I'm going to read them to you when we come back. Stay tuned.
Eastbound at 64, a little bit of volume there. Boone's Crossing through Timberlake Manor, and then again approaching 170 through Big Bend, with westbound lining up, and that's mainly from Hampton through the Hanley area before it looks better. Eastbound 70, slowing Wentzville, a little bit of Cave Springs, 141, that kind of thing, but not much. Southbound 61, slow Highway P through 64, and northbound at 270. It's moderate volume, but it stretches in pockets 55 up through Manchester. Northbound 55, slowing at 141 and approaching 270. And some volume now westbound 64 on the Illinois side, headed for the 70 split, and then slow pockets between there and the Poplar Street Bridge. I'm Sue Thomas with traffic. 97.1 FM Talk, St. Louis Conservative.
You need to get your head out of your butt, focus on the real issues.
Yeah, I thought about this yesterday while watching Josh Shapiro, that is, the man who would be president. He's currently the governor of the state of Pennsylvania. And he held a news conference because they have a measles outbreak in Pennsylvania. And he wants to blame the measles outbreak on RFK Jr. and the Trump administration because some people have chosen not to be forced to get the vaccine. So it strikes me here that just like with the COVID vaccine, if you choose not to get it, you're not putting at risk the lives of people who did get it because they are vaccinated against it. And I think that's a simple fact that needs to be stated up front. Here's what Josh Shapiro said yesterday about RFK Jr. and the Trump administration.
The rhetoric that's coming from this administration are having a negative impact on communities across America, particularly right here in Pennsylvania, that there's real life consequences to spreading misinformation.
All right, so that is what invoked the ire of RFK Jr. The reason Shapiro was late to this news conference is he was in his car on the phone with RFK Jr., who called him to say, what can we do to help? Shapiro accused him of misinformation. So RFK Jr. put out a very long X response to this, which I wish he'd put out a video, but he didn't. This is what he put out. He says, during our phone call this morning, the governor accused me of promoting misinformation. When I asked him for an example, he was unable to provide one. This did not deter him from publicly repeating that accusation during his press event. I told him HHS does not tolerate misinformation by any employee, and I offered to point to hundreds of instances of vaccine misinformation by the Biden administration about which I had never heard him complain. Right? So Shapiro's issue here is with RFK saying anybody would ever have an excuse, Kim, to not get the MMR vaccine. Listen to RFK's response to this is classic, and I wish he had done it on camera, but I'm going to read it to you because this is information I don't know how many of you knew. Did you know that fetal tissue is in every mRNA vaccine given out?
I would hope people would know that from COVID.
So here's what he said. At the press conference today, Pennsylvania Governor Shapiro accused me of promoting conspiracy theories because I told him during a telephone conversation that some Americans had religious objections to the MMR vaccine because it contained fetal tissue. He told me there is no fetal tissue in MMR. I referred him to the deposition of Stanley Plotkin, the inventor of the MMR vaccine. Plotkin admits butchering 76 aborted, normally developing fetuses, all over 3 months old, in the womb, in just one of many studies that led to development of his vaccine. He continues, the rubella virus used in MMR2 is grown on the cultured cell line composed of lung tissue from an aborted 3-month-old female embryo listed as WI38 human diploid lung fibroblasts. It's listed as that in the ingredients of the MMR2 as portions of these cells ended up in each vial of MMR2. Go out and grok it for yourself. This is absolutely true from Stanley Plotkin's deposition on this issue. During Plotkin's deposition, the attorney asked him, isn't it true that MMR2 contains approximately 150 nanogram cells purposefully fragmented to approximately 215 base pairs in length, talking about DNA strands? Dr. Plotkin answered, yes, that is correct. This would equal 646 billion pieces of human DNA from aborted fetal cell lines in each vial of MMR2. So if you know that, you should have every right to reject that vaccine for a variety of reasons, not the least of which is aborted cells were used to create that.
Which, again, was in part because that was also used for the COVID shot, or at least some of them. That was part of the argument when I had a letter from my pastor, and then the union, or Meredith, I guess, that used to own KMOV, was saying, well, then we need to see evidence of, okay, it's against your religion, so therefore you don't drink any alcohol, you don't take any other over-the-counter medications like Tylenol, no antibiotics. They wanted, and I have this in an email, I'm not kidding. In fact, I was looking through my old screenshots trying to free up storage space on my phone, and I was coming across some of these emails and just laughing at how ridiculous they were to try to say, well, then if you're going to tell me this is religious in this case, then you need to also prove this. I mean, when people when people freak out about 2 deaths, are 2 deaths sad? Yes. Could there have been other factors that were not mentioned publicly in a lot of these articles? Absolutely yes. It doesn't mean you shouldn't take it serious. Measles, just like anything else, The flu can be serious in some cases and can be deadly. But when you look at the larger scheme of things, it's just not what a lot of people, it's fear-mongering is what they're doing, and they're driving people to go get these shots. You have the Trump administration saying you should break it up into 5 shots. Now, I don't advocate for the MMR in general. I think it's a harmful shot. I would never have one of my children take it. If you look at the statistics from the CDC backing up to when measles started kind of going up and when it started going down, it actually started going down before the shot got introduced. It's statistics. I'm not making this up. The numbers back me up. So a lot of people want to attribute, it's because of the vaccine. That's what saved everybody and didn't cause this mass spreading of the measles. Not true. That's the narrative that's been spread in media, and people understandably are overwhelmed by a lot of other things, don't feel like they have the time, don't even know where to look to get this information, so they just take it for gospel, and then they are making health decisions based on that false narrative.
True. And Shapiro, you heard him there, called it misinformation that was coming from the Trump administration. So they don't have science on their side here. They just want to try to damage RFK Jr., who's dared to question why we had a 70% spike in autism over the past 60 or 70 years since we started adding new vaccines every year, all on top. Didn't they say a child would end up with over 70?
It's about 7. It was between 72 or 78 by the time they're 18 based on the current vaccine schedule. But then the Trump administration dropped it down to I want to say 50 something.
Right.
So they've made improvement in the right direction, but we still are not where we need to be. Parents are shamed if they're opting to slow it down and delay, or if they're choosing to not vaccinate, which should be okay. You should be able to do that.
I agree, but the thing about it is that those vaccines are also not subjected to the same testing requirements that our regular drugs are. Regular, opioids and things like that. They're not subjected to the same standards when they're in a lab. They're not put through those same requirements. So I don't know what is the danger in going back and questioning what caused the rise of this. That's what they seem to be afraid of. You're going to get vaccine hesitation. Vaccines are a choice.
Mm-hmm.
And I think parents need to be educated on what's in them. It's that simple. They don't want that education. They didn't want anybody questioning anything, which is why Fauci looked into a camera and lied to the American people. Even when he knew it was having a potentially negative impact and leading to premature births and some other problems like that, he didn't tell pregnant women you shouldn't get the shot.
Yeah.
He let him get it anyway.
I would challenge any of you to ask your doctor, hey, what's in this vaccine? Could I just see the little pamphlet for that? Because they don't know. They're just going off of the narrative that they're being told of, there's so many studies that back this up.
It's protocol.
It's protocol. You have to do it. I mean, I told you, Mark, I was kicked out of my pediatrician just recently because we didn't follow their vaccine guidelines. So we got a letter in the mail from them saying, basically, we're not allowing you as a patient anymore, your kids.
Bendy pointed out when I was a kid, everybody got measles, mumps, chicken pox. It was miserable, but we survived.
I've played the Brady Bunch scene for you where they're like, got the measles. They're not too bad. They just get to hang out and they don't have to go to school and they can just watch TV and eat popsicles. I mean, people would have, and this is kind of before, I guess maybe when I was growing up, people still had chicken pox parties, but I feel like that would never be a thing now. People would flip out if you had chicken pox, which chicken pox is no fun. Thankfully, I was a baby when I got it, so I don't remember. But, I mean, that was just the standard, was people would gather all their kids together if they had the chicken pox so that you could just get it. And same with measles.
Yes.
You don't want it, but the idea would be, okay, this is contagious. You might as well just kind of get the antibodies built up now.
Well, if you haven't looked at that Plotkin deposition, his name is Stanley, Plotkin. You can go back and look at it, and it's what Robert F. Kennedy was referring to here. In other words, you're not getting the full story from Josh Shapiro. And like you said, any death is tragic. They've had two measles deaths in Pennsylvania. I'd like to know who the victims were.
And I'd like to know if there were any other factors that are not being disclosed to us.
Very likely. Very likely. What's coming up in Kim on a Whim?
This is a big day for the Lindsay Clancy trial. This is when they're making closing arguments and the jury's expected to start deliberating. The question at hand is, does she belong in a psych ward? Was she just a victim of postpartum psychosis, or did she methodically go and murder her 3 children?
Well, we've got a lot of the usual volume out there this morning. If you are just headed out the door, that's what we've got along northbound 270. So it's slow pockets between 55 and the Clayton Road overpass. And we've got eastbound 70 looking actually okay in the O'Fallon area, but it's slow in Wentzville and a little bit headed for the Blanchette Bridge. After Lindbergh, things open up a bit. And don't delay again until you're headed into downtown. Now, 64 isn't bad out west. Moderate volume in pockets, Boone's Crossing through Big Bend. Westbound still slow, Hampton through McCausland. Eastbound 364 slowing east of Highway K. Southbound 170. Pretty slow at Page at this hour and also at 40. At 55, looks okay. I mean, it's a little off the pace at 141 in the construction zone there. Northbound 55 jams headed for the Poplar Street Bridge and beyond. 44 westbound slowing near Grand in the roadwork section. And westbound traffic is slow, headed for and crossing the Poplar Street Bridge. I'm Sue Thomas with traffic. 97.1 FM Talk, St. Louis Conservative.
Hey, you know, when the heat comes, when the sun is beating down on your house next week when it's 100 degrees, the people that have Rhino Shield on there are not going to have any concerns about their paint fading, the color of their house being damaged by those ultraviolet rays, because the Rhino Shield is designed to reject 90%. It reflects those off. So there's an insulating factor in what you've applied to your house, number one. Number two, it's 100% waterproof when it's on there. So it's protecting your unpainted brick, whatever you happen to have. If you've got the older aluminum siding or steel siding, that tends to get, well, I've heard Darren call it chalky. I think there's no better description of it. It kind of gets faded because of rain and sun and all that. Not with Rhino Shield. Goes on thick. Forms sort of a ceramic coating. It is beautifully durable, and you can put it on just about anything. You can put Darren to the test on that, but there are very few surfaces you can't put Rhino Shield on your business, your home, your church, your condo, whatever it happens to be. Call him today. Still plenty of time to get Rhino Shield on your house this season. The evaluations are always free. Call 877-25-RHINO or online at 877-25rhino.com.
All right, so the trial for Lindsay Clancy is continuing today, but this is kind of when it all builds up and we wait to see what happens because they're expecting closing arguments and then the jury to start deliberating. Keep in mind, this is a Massachusetts mom, a former labor and delivery nurse who prosecutors say that she strangled her 3 children at their home and then tried to jump out the window. She survived and is partially paralyzed. And the argument for her has been that she suffered from postpartum psychosis, that she heard voices and that led her to do that, and that she, for that reason, belongs in a psych ward, not convicted of first-degree murder and in prison. Now, I made the argument about this whole thing, and I had pretty strong feelings about something that Matt Walsh had said about postpartum depression, and I didn't suffer from postpartum depression with either of my 2 kids, but I have dealt with some stuff. and it can get kind of scary, the thoughts that go into your head. And so I was very irritated that Matt Walsh was saying that stuff. I actually unfollowed him. I just didn't want to deal with it. I thought it was completely just lack of taste, I guess, the way he completely, it seemed, completely dismissed any sort of like a mental thing going on after women have children. I think that's garbage if you want to pretend that that's not a thing. Now, do I think that that means that Lindsay Clancy is not guilty? No, I've never said that. I do think Lindsay Clancy is guilty. So you can say what Matt Walsh said was stupid, but also think that Lindsay Clancy deserves to be in prison, because when you look at the things, it's that the way she went about it, it seems like it was very well planned out. And I know, Mark, you were talking about Allie Beth Stuckey during the commercial break, and that's someone who I have followed closely over the years. She's got a podcast called Relatable. And it sounds like she, changed her mind, her stance on this?
So this is about a 7.5 minute clip that she put out, which, let me summarize it before I play the part that I've edited for you here. She basically said that she misunderstood and she apologized because she truly believed that this woman was a victim of the medical system, and multiple doctors had put her on 13 different medicines that were conflicting and drove her into this psychosis. And not that she didn't think she was guilty of the action she took, but she thought that the circumstances of her guilt were altered by this medicine, and that should play a role in this trial. And she has since changed her mind after coming across some new information after listening to the actual evidence that was presented at trial. Listen.
There was no evidence presented at trial that any of Clancy's treating physicians formally diagnosed her with postpartum depression. She was never diagnosed, as far as we know, from any of the clinicians that she saw before she killed her children with postpartum depression or postpartum psychosis. Never. For example, according to the Boston Globe and CBS, she went to Women and Infants Hospital, and the clinicians there specifically concluded that she did not have postpartum depression, while McLean Hospital diagnosed her with severe major depressive disorder without psychotic features. So she was given these medications for a general mood disorder, which is a diagnosis that's in the DSM-5, but she was never diagnosed with postpartum psychosis.
And to her, that changes her evaluation of the whole thing.
So I heard that postpartum psychosis, which I had never heard of until this trial. I've heard of postpartum anxiety, postpartum depression, things like that. I heard that they attach that word postpartum to it because it automatically kind of triggers empathy. I mean, look at the way that these moms have come out and been supporting her. They are standing outside the courthouse and they're holding signs saying, "We are Lindsay Clancy." I think you can empathize with someone who's going through postpartum and the struggle that can come with that sometimes from a mental standpoint without in any way saying what you did is okay or that it justifies what you did. Because I know plenty of women who have struggled with postpartum depression because it is a very real thing. And it is concerning if you're on several medications at the same time and the way that those interact with one another. That is problematic, and that's something that needs to be looked at. But you can't use that as a justification for, I went down and I strangled my 3 children.
Well, and there was intentionality to it, and there was planning, and all of that. I can't envision this jury not finding her guilty of her actions and sentencing her to life in jail. I can't envision that scenario. Here, let me continue here a little bit with Allie Beth. Listen.
She was never diagnosed with postpartum anxiety. She was never diagnosed, as far as we know, the defense certainly hasn't said so, with postpartum anxiety. That just goes to show how the defense, how media, and how social media and the narrative that is pushed can completely just change and characterize how you think about a case and how you think about what justice looks like. I guarantee you that fact shocked you. That Lindsay Clancy was never diagnosed, has never been diagnosed with postpartum depression, anxiety, or psychosis. That those diagnoses have only been applied to her since the trial started.
Wow. And I did not know that.
No, I've followed a little bit. I've tuned in when I can, but man, I mean, this has been going on for weeks, so it's hard to tune into all of it. Someone on the social media was asking how old her kids were. So she had a 5-year-old, a 3-year-old, and an 8-month-old, which is just so tragic. She sent her husband, it's seen in a text, sent him on an errand. Hey, do you want to pick up some takeout? I think she even had him go on one more additional errand, and clearly wanted the time to be able to do this, to be alone in the house with the kids. So I don't know how you wouldn't be able to say then that would be first-degree murder, because the difference between first-degree murder and second-degree murder is that first-degree murder is planned out versus second-degree murder is, for example, you catch someone cheating and in the heat of the moment you kill them.
Right,
That's still murder, but it's second-degree versus, oh, you planned this out, you researched how long this is going to take for your husband to run this errand, and you made sure that he was out of the house. That's first-degree murder.
It was hard to listen to yesterday that witness described him arriving home, finding her outside, worried about her, calls 911, waits for a neighbor to get there, and he says, I'm going to go in and check on the kids. And he walks into the house and finds all 3 of his children dead.
I can't even wrap my brain around that.
It's just the most tragic case. All right, coming up, we'll get to, we think we're going to get to Taylor Rogers with the White House coming up here at 8:22. We will get to Griff Jenkins, and we're going to tell you about a 9/11 March to the Arch that you can take part in. Stay tuned.
Catastrophic Himalayan floods leave hundreds dead and well over 1,300 missing. I'm Carmen Roberts, Fox News. Search and rescue teams in Nepal and Tibet are racing to find survivors after massive flooding hit, decimating entire communities.
Security camera footage from Nepal shows people on the ground had only seconds to find safety. A wall of water, mud, and debris swept away people, cars, and buses, as well as many buildings that stood in the way.
Fox's Jeff Paul. More than 750 foreigners among the missing, including at least 65 Americans in the region that's popular with truckers and religious pilgrims. The USGS believes a powerful landslide triggered the floods.
One theory, part of a glacier broke off, triggering an avalanche of ice and rock, which in turn caused those floods. And rescue efforts could not be more difficult. Roads have been buried in mud, and several of those critical bridges were ripped away during those floods.
An ICE officer charged with shooting a man and lying about it during the immigration crackdown in Minneapolis is freed. The sheriff of Cameron County, Texas, said in an email that deputies released Christian Castro from a detention center in Brownsville today after a judge refused to order his return to Minnesota. In Massachusetts, closing arguments are expected to get underway shortly in the murder trial of Lindsay Clancy, who strangled her 3 young children. Clancy claims that she was in the midst of a postpartum psychosis.
The key question facing the jury is, should Clancy be criminally responsible? Did prosecutors prove beyond a reasonable doubt that she could appreciate her actions were wrong?
Fox's Nate Foy from the courthouse in Plymouth. And jobless claims came in slightly below expectations last week, falling by 4,000 to 203,000, remaining at historic lows as layoffs stay rare. America's listening to Fox News.
When I hit my 50s, I felt like things were slowing down.
This is Sandra's Metamucil story.
I started taking Metamucil for digestion, but had no idea it would impact so much more. Not only did Metamucil help me feel more regular, but my heart health saw the benefits too.
Metamucil, one simple routine, 4 health benefits. Digestive health starts here. Go to metamucil.com for more details.
The future of cornhole is here. From casual backyard games to professional ACL tournaments, the Cornhole app is your all-in-one hub for the game you love. Keep score, track stats, follow your favorite players, and manage leagues and tournaments with powerful event tools. Whether you're a brand new player or an ACL pro, the Cornhole app connects you to the entire cornhole community. Download the Cornhole app today.
Good morning. I'm Kim St. Ange for 97.1 FM Talk. Kind of feels like fall out there right now. We're still in the mid-60s here downtown. Sunny, a very, very beautiful start to this Thursday morning now at 8:03. Here's what's making headlines on August 27th. A longtime attorney with the Missouri Attorney General's office has been found alive after going missing during a hike in Wyoming. Sean McElprang started his solo climb toward Gannett Peak, which is Wyoming's tallest mountaintop, back on August 20th. He was then reported missing 5 days later. The AG's office says McElprang was weak, but he was conscious when first responders eventually reached him by helicopter. He has been with the Missouri Attorney General's office for 28 years. The state of Missouri is set to get about $100 million from Meta's $17 billion settlement. Dozens of states' attorneys general sued Meta, accusing the company of knowingly addicting children to Facebook and Instagram and then in turn causing some mental health issues. There's no word yet from Missouri officials on how that money will be spent. We do know Meta has also agreed to make several changes as part of the settlement to make its platforms less addicting for children, and one of those changes includes a 2-hour daily time limit. St. Charles Mayor Dan Borgmeyer says he's applying for a $3 million federal grant to help cover the cost to build tiny homes for the homeless. Hundreds of residents packed a meeting last night where city leaders unveiled the proposed tiny home community. Under this proposal, people would rent the tiny home for $350 per month, utilities included. The project's still in the planning stages, though. One potential location, though, being considered is just north of the Route 370 bridge. All right, in sports, not a great game. Cards lost to the Orioles 8-7. Hoping to avoid a sweep today. First pitch coming up at 1:15. We're coming up on 8:05, 66 degrees downtown. I'm Kim St. Ange for 97.1 FM Talk, St. Louis Conservative.
There is an accident eastbound 70 approaching the 64 split, and it looks like it's on the right shoulder, so just be aware. Now, eastbound 70 is slow at Wentzville and some volume at 141 and headed into downtown, but it's all moderate volume. Same thing with 6440. Moderate volume, Boone's Crossing in pockets through Big Bend, with westbound slowing near Hampton, and that goes out through McCausland. We've got some moderate volume on southbound 170 today on either side of Olive. And let's see, southbound 141 is really jammed at Clayton Road at this hour. 44 slowing at 270, and northbound 270, slow pockets 55 up through Manchester. Looks like northbound 141 has the usual slowdown on either side of 44, and some volume westbound on the Poplar Street Bridge. I'm Sue Thomas with traffic. 97.1 FM Talk, St. Louis Conservative.
Coming up on 7 minutes after the hour here on this Thursday morning. Thanks for starting out your day with us. We're sitting at 66 degrees and sunny right here at the Arch. Hey, as a reminder, you can take the Marc Cox Morning Show with you wherever you go. You can listen to the show any time of the day from anywhere around the world. You'll find it always on our free Odyssey app.
Happy you're back with us. It is a Thursday morning. You're listening to the Marc Cox Morning Show. I'm Mark. That is Kim St. Onge sitting right down there. She's back, baby. She's at what? What would you say, 80%?
Something like that.
She was still not 100% this morning, but came back in anyway after 4 days, 3.5, 4 days of stomach problems.
I came in Monday and then basically was here, recorded headlines, and then turned right back around and drove a half an hour back home.
And said with some confidence Monday morning, I don't think you can catch what I've got, but I'm going to leave anyway. So
I could barely
thank you for that.
could barely talk. I could barely stand up, but it did
awful.
not. I do not. There's no way it was cyclosporiasis, just to squash anyone thinking that, because I didn't have the typical symptoms. Yes, I ate lettuce. It was not that. And I didn't. I think that's the weirdest thing. I don't feel sick, but it was very weird. I don't know.
It takes the wind out of you. You said you haven't eaten in 3 days. So.
Well, I've had some food, but
yes.
Not probably enough. And I'm on strict orders to drink a lot of water because I was told I was, I think, pretty dehydrated yesterday.
Well, we are glad that you made it back. And thanks to Matthew and Dan for helping us out the last couple of days. And we still got lots to get to this hour. We've got Taylor Rogers coming up, we're told, a White House deputy press secretary. I don't know if Taylor is a candidate for press secretary or not. I guess maybe we'll find out. Griff Jenkins from Fox News is going to join us at the bottom of the hour, and there is a march to the Arch scheduled for 9/11, and that is something you can take part in. We're going to give you more details on it coming up before the end of the hour at about 8:45 or 8:50 this morning, so be sure and stay tuned for that. Right now, we have a big list to get to on the short list. Ethan, hit it.
A lethal wall of water and debris comes crashing through, decimating buildings and bridges, swallowing complete villages. Nearly 25 miles of roads were damaged, according to officials, all complicating search and rescue efforts for the hundreds of locals and tourists still missing, including dozens of Americans.
Yeah, I was watching that video. If you haven't seen it yet, if you have not actually been on social media yet this morning, it is truly awful. It's awful to watch. Some of the security video of people scampering, they can hear it coming, but they didn't get any advance warning, and they just simply couldn't get to high ground before this thing just wiped them out. And most of this big town, the houses were just crumbling and tumbling down the river in this water. It was awful.
Every single time the chattering class in Washington starts to say, "Oh, Donald Trump is losing his grip on the party," but every time that happens, he so far has proven us wrong. So there's that.
Yeah, Anna Linsky, she's a Boston Globe reporter. She's on the air yesterday, and they're like, "So has Donald Trump lost his touch?" She goes, "Well, every time we report that, we find out something different. So maybe we need to wait and see."
Number one on Sharia law, I would absolutely say that's not this country. It's no Sharia law.
Yeah, I guess you'd need to sign something. That's the president yesterday when Sharia law issue was brought up, probably after the Abdul El Sayed interview the other day with Jesse Waters, right, where he talked about that he would never try to institute that in the U.S., yet he lives his life by those tenets.
What your audience needs to remember is what this president and Republicans in Congress have done. The largest middle-class tax cuts in American history. No tax on tips for our workers. No tax on overtime. No tax on Social Security for our seniors.
How about that? If you're going to miss that voice, that was Caroline Leavitt in maybe one of her last appearances at the White House. Today is officially her last day. My guess is she will handle some sort of press briefing today. The president has not named a replacement.
No, and there's been names thrown around, and I don't know how much Taylor would tell us, probably nothing. But, man, the next person who steps into that role has some really big shoes to fill.
Who did we have on?
Alina Habba?
No, from the White House Communications Office. Just about the time Caroline Leavitt took maternity leave.
Abigail Jackson?
We had Abigail on, and I jokingly asked her if she was a candidate for that job in Caroline's absence, which, of course, they didn't really appoint anybody to it. They had cabinet secretaries come in and lead the press briefings during all of that. But it was a really uncomfortable moment because all I was doing was trying to compliment her and say, I think you'd be great at this. Hopefully you're a candidate for that. And she's like kind of hemmed and hawed a little bit. I guess it's politically sensitive enough that you don't want people to know that you're lobbying for it. I don't know. Maybe she wasn't, and maybe Taylor's not.
Well, Taylor is, and you'll see here because I'll put her picture up when we have her on. She's a very beautiful young woman, as is Caroline Leavitt. I'm not saying that that's what the Trump administration is looking for, but, I mean, you typically have women in the role, historically. So the question will be, will they promote somebody who's one of these deputy press secretaries, many of whom we've spoken to on the show, or will it be this kind of outsider who takes over and that's really the only thing that changes?
Well, I mean, Scott Jennings has
it's
said
not going to be Scott Jennings.
He's not interested in it, really. I mean, it'd be a big pay cut for him.
I don't think the Trump administration would do it.
He's a syndicated talk show host. He's getting paid by CNN to go on there and school them once a day. I can't imagine. Although sometimes you get a call to service and you feel like you should go serve. I mean, it is service to your country. You're not going to get rich doing it unless you're a congressman. Well, when you can manipulate the system, as we've seen in Nancy Pelosi's case and a few others.
But Caroline already ran for office years ago.
She
was
did.
Not successful. But you better believe that if she runs again, which she's in her late 20s, she'll probably run. She would have a lot better odds of winning.
That you could take that to the bank right now. That young lady will be back.
Yeah.
In some elected capacity at some point. When her children are a little older, she has 2 under 3 now, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, and I don't know if they're going to have any more or not. And I only speculate on that because her husband is my age.
He's what, 50-something? 59?
I don't know, but he's getting up there in age to be continuing to have small children. It's not really fair to the kids probably at that point. So I wonder, say she's done in 4 or 5 years, these kids are off to school. My guess is she's dipping her toe back into politics.
Oh, 100%.
I think there's no doubt about that.
Well, but she's even said, though, she's still going to be with the Trump administration in some capacity. Just because you can imagine how demanding that job is. Not in fact, she posted on Instagram this morning, which is reminded me that it's her last day. But she said, kind of honoring Dolly Parton. She said, not working 9 to 5, but working 6 to 8. So, I mean, think about that. If that's a typical day for her, a 14-hour day, that's no joke. Away from her family. She said her husband cares for her kids. Now, whether or not they have a nanny, I have no idea. I would think yes, but I have no clue. But not only that, long hours, she's jetting off to all these random countries on a semi-regular basis, right? She's one of the people within his tight-knit group of people there at the White House who regularly travels with him.
And he has to have that person with him, right? So I can see her giving that up. But anyway, we're hoping to get Taylor Rogers on the line here. She's one of the other deputy press secretaries in the office, talking about the dramatic drop in fentanyl deaths in the U.S., probably tied, I'm guessing, to border control as much as anything else. We will find that out when we come back in just a minute.
Well, we've got an accident reported eastbound 6440 approaching 170, not that far from McKnight. And we've got a slow go that goes back through 270. Also some volume on either side of Clarkson. And then westbound is still lined up. This is approaching Hampton through 170. Now, 70 eastbound, a report of an accident. It was on the shoulder, then they say partially in the right lane. Eastbound 70 near the 64 split, and that has caused a delay. 44 eastbound, a little bit slow there in the Webster area, especially approaching Elm at this hour, and westbound lines up near Grand because of road work. We've got northbound 55 slow headed for the Poplar, northbound 270, moderate volume in pockets between 55 and Ladue Road. And that's a little bit of volume westbound on the Poplar, but also on westbound 5570 at 111. That is due to road work. This report is brought to you by Midwest Gun Works. And this is the place where people go who know what they're doing. They've been there for 3 decades, and firearm enthusiasts have trusted Midwest Gun Works for hard-to-find parts, expert gunsmithing, quality gear. Your next build or repair starts here. Shop MidwestGunworks.com or visit Midwest Gunworks in Peevely, Missouri. Sue Thomas with traffic. 97.1 FM Talk, St. Louis Conservative.
Hey, you're going to want to take advantage of this. So we're almost at the end of August, which means this special is going to go away in just a few days. But at Zero Res, right now, they will clean 3 rooms of carpet for $119. It starts at $119. Then you can choose whatever else in your house, if anything, you'd like to get Zero Resified. And the choices are extensive. They can do your hardwood and your tile. They can do the ducts that lead up from your furnace, and the return air ducts that are taking the return air with the dust and allergens back down into your furnace and blowing it back out through the blower motor. Well, you get those cleaned out. It makes a huge difference, particularly if you have allergies, in how your home is clean and healthy for you. That's important. Zero Res can do it. They can Zero Resify just about anything in your home. So reach out to them today and book this before time runs out in August, because when August is up, that deal is up. 314-474-2020. Ask for the 97.1 special or tell them you heard Marc Cox talking about it, or go online to ZeroResSTL.com.
The time now is 8:19, and this time check is brought to you by Paramount Men's Medical Center.
What your audience needs to remember is what this president and Republicans in Congress have done. The largest middle-class tax cuts in American history. No tax on tips for our workers, no tax on overtime, no tax on Social Security for our seniors.
Yeah, there she is. That's Caroline Leavitt, the White House press secretary. And today is officially her last day, I'm told. It's going to be a big deal up there in the White House. We have Taylor Rogers on the line. She's a White House deputy press secretary. And Taylor, I'm assuming the cake has already been brought in for Caroline?
Well, that's right. I mean, our team will be gathering today for a little team breakfast as we celebrate Caroline for all of her incredible accomplishments. I mean, she has truly been the best to ever deliver a president's agenda and message to the American people. And so we will miss her dearly here at the White House, but we will continue the work of making sure that the press shares what the president is doing day in and day out and getting the message out to the American people. But we will miss Caroline very dearly.
We obviously want to talk to you about the very significant drop in fentanyl deaths ever since Trump took office for the second term. But I do have to ask, Taylor, I mean, by the way, you kind of sound like Caroline, which is crazy. But is there any timeline that the White House has given as far as when the new press secretary would be officially announced?
Well, that's a fantastic compliment, so thank you. But, you know, I think we're on the president's timeline. So whenever the president has a decision to make and wants to make that decision, he will do so. I think for right now, we are just planning to keep going. The midterms are coming up. I think the president's going to be doing a lot of travel. And so our team is just going to keep working hard. Stephen Chung, our wonderful comms director, is going to be here to help us every step of the way. And so we'll just have to see what the president decides.
It's a good point. You know, Marco Rubio already has his hands full.
You know, he could probably do it. We saw him at the podium when Caroline was on maternity leave, and he absolutely crushed it.
Those memes are so funny.
They're the best.
Yes.
You know, if the secretary wants to wear another hat, I mean, he'd be great. So,
Taylor Rogers, our guest, deputy press secretary at the White House. On the more serious note of fentanyl deaths, the drop has been so dramatic in the past 24 months or so that it's just about shocking. And I know it's not just the border closing. Remind people what all has gone into this very intentional effort to stop our American kids from dying from fentanyl.
yeah, well, you're totally right. I mean, this is a direct result of the president's agenda. He promised to take care of this problem that grew under Joe Biden on the campaign trail, and he has delivered. I mean, fentanyl deaths have dropped 22% in a single year, and America recorded its lowest overall death rate ever in 2025. And so this is just a direct result. The data backs up the president's actions and his agenda to close the border and to deport criminal illegal aliens that were smuggling these drugs over the border. And the president has really cracked down on ensuring that criminal illegal aliens cannot smuggle these drugs into our country anymore. And so this is a result of him being tough on crime and ensuring that we have a secure border, something that we did not have under Joe Biden, and the reason why these overdose deaths kept rising. And so the president and his team have done a fantastic job to ensure that, you know, moms and dads don't lose their children to fentanyl anymore that is smuggled across the border. It's very unfortunate. I've lost loved ones to fentanyl deaths, and so it's near and dear to my heart. And it's incredible what the president has done to ensure that this is a problem that is prioritized and is fixed.
Wow, sorry to hear that. I feel like that's sadly becoming more common where people can say, yeah, I personally know somebody, which is why it was so important that Trump made this a priority. Do you think, Taylor, that there was any other factor aside from the border? We knew that was a problem, illegals who were smuggling that over here, and it was, you know, touching every part of the country. Was there any other factor as far as how this stuff was becoming so prevalent?
Sure. Sure. Well, I mean, I think the border is the number one thing. I think, the president, like the military forces were conducting, strikes on these narco trafficking vessels that were bringing these drugs over from the Pacific and the Caribbean, and then also from the southern border. But obviously, this is stuff that also goes on in our cities. And the president has really launched an effort to make our cities safer. We've seen that here in Washington, D.C. I mean, as the president always says, we feel safer walking around Washington, D.C. now. And that's true because criminals who are drug dealing in Washington, D.C. are now being taken off the streets and put where they belong. And so I think the president's larger agenda to enforce law and order and crack down on crime has really mitigated some of this illegal activity that's been going on with smuggling fentanyl, selling fentanyl, and the drug trafficking.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe it's just my perception, but I know the role the cartels played in Mexico of bringing this stuff in. Clearly, they've gotten the message.
Well, I think so. I mean, the president will not tolerate that happening. The Democrats and Joe Biden certainly did. They actually incentivized it. They enabled it by allowing there to be a wide open border, from not giving ICE the resources that they needed to do their jobs. And so that's the result. What we saw under Joe Biden is the result on having leadership that is not tough on crime. And the president is tough on crime. The criminals know it, and that's why we're seeing less of them.
Well, and it's not just fentanyl, Taylor, because I listened to a guy named Bakari Sellers on CNN yesterday try to credit the drop in crime around the country, not to President Trump, but to the fact that a few mayors around the country have started midnight basketball programs. I mean, it's the argument from the left is really that ridiculous.
Yeah, well, that's unfortunate but typical of CNN. I mean, let's be honest here. Crime was way up under Joe Biden and when Democrats were in leadership, and now it's way down. And that's because we have a president who promised to crack down on crime. I mean, we just saw from the latest FBI report that violent crime saw the largest drop in 90 years. That's not the result of some late night teen parties put together by the city. That's a result of a president who has given law enforcement the resources and the support they need and has been very clear that crime will not be tolerated.
Well, I tell you, Taylor, we appreciate your time this morning. Do us all a favor and give Caroline our best, please.
I will. Thank you guys for having me.
Yep, we will talk again soon. Thank you. Kim, I know you're far too young to remember this, but I believe it was during the Obama administration. The city of St. Louis tried to start a midnight basketball program.
I remember hearing about
Do you remember
this.
hearing about it? Yeah, and it was so riddled with corruption that they ended up busting the guy that was running it for stealing money or something like that, and it closed down shortly thereafter. I really think they should, if these cities were smart, they'd just take the lead from the city of St. Louis and ban these Lime scooters, because that must be what's drawing all the crime downtown.
Oh, I agree.
Oh,
I
yeah,
think that's the definite culprit.
That's got to be it, because it works so well here, You know what I'm saying? Not. All right, coming up, we'll get to our buddy Griff Jenkins. We'll find out where in the world he is, and I'm going to tell you how to take part in the March to the Arch for a reminder of 9/11 coming up at 8:45.
I'm Nicole Murray with Your Money Now. AstraZeneca said its asthma drug, Tezspire, met the main goals of a late-stage trial in patients with a chronic inflammatory disorder of the esophagus. The study showed that Tezspire, developed with Amgen, significantly reduced inflammation in the esophagus and eased difficulty in swallowing compared with the placebo. Salesforce lifted its annual revenue and profit forecasts and rolled out a new plugin combining its capabilities with Anthropic's cloud AI models, sending its shares up 14%. This news comes as Salesforce grapples with deeply negative sentiment on software stocks as investors worry about the threat from AI disruption. HP said its PC unit shipments and margins declined in the third quarter as price increases to offset rising memory chip costs proved to be insufficient, sending its shares down 9%. HP is grappling with a global memory chip squeeze fueled by massive AI data center buildouts. Futures are still mixed. That's Your Money Now.
Texting enrolls you in a recurring automated marketing text messages. Consent not required to purchase. Message and data rates may apply.
The team's looking good this season.
I think so. Man, I miss playing football. Ever since I turned 40, I just can't find that fire I used to have.
Think it could be lower testosterone?
What do you mean?
I was feeling the same way. After 40, the body has less testosterone, and men lose their edge. That's why I take Nugenix Total T2.
That's the testosterone booster, right?
Yes, but Total T2 is their brand new formula that skyrockets nitric oxide levels in as little as 3 hours. Since I started taking it, I've been lifting like when we played for Coach Carter. My energy is way up, and it even spiced up things between me and the missus.
Are they still giving out complimentary bottles?
Yep, just send a text.
Text SPARK to 215-215 for your complimentary bottle of Nugenix Total T2, the next generation testosterone booster. Text now and we'll include a bottle of Nugenix Thermo X, our newest, most powerful fat burner ever, absolutely free. Text SPARK to 215-215. That's SPARK to 215-215.
These statements have not been evaluated by the FDA. This product is not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease.
We've got a stall eastbound 70 before Salisbury, and it's blocking the left lane and the left shoulder. Now, here's some good news. They cleared the accident eastbound 70 approaching 64, so that should start to thin out. Most of the volume on 6440 is on either side of Clarkson and then from 270 through Big Bend. Westbound still a slow go, approaching Hampton through 170. And it's mainly moderate volume along northbound 270, but it stretches between Gravois and Manchester. 55 is now looking pretty good. It's a little slow at the Poplar Street Bridge, but that's it. And we're looking much better on the bridge itself. But if you are westbound on 5570, traffic is jamming at 111, and that is just all due to road work. I'm Sue Thomas with traffic on 97.1 FM Talk, St. Louis Conservative.
All right, so if you are one of those people who, like me, the little things get to you right around the house, like stumping your toe as you're going across the sidewalk because it's uneven, I got a fix for that, and it's so much cheaper than having to tear up that concrete pad and get it repoured. You can just go to my friends at Home Shield Foundation Repairs, and they will take care of it for you. They fill the void that caused the concrete pad to not be level or your driveway with polyurethane. They call it polyjacking. And when they're done, they'll give you a 5-year warranty on the work that it's going to stay the way they fixed it, and you move on with your life. You don't have to worry about those little pesky things anymore. Of course, Home Shield Foundation Repairs also deals with foundation cracks and water in your basement, and they fix those, and they give you a lifetime warranty. So why wouldn't you call them? They're also doing 2 years same as cash financing right now, 314-271-9900. That's 271-9900, or just go online to homeshieldfoundationrepairs.com.
And I'm going to have a paperweight sitting on my desk. You know what that paperweight's going to be? It's going to be a piece of the ballroom after we all blow it up. That's what it's going to be.
In Kyiv, Ukraine, Griff Jenkins, Fox News. Along the southern border, Griff Jenkins, Fox News. At the White House, Griff Jenkins, Fox News. In St. Louis, Griff Jenkins, Fox News.
Tell me where in the world is
Griff Jenkins. All right, Griff, we know what you're going to be covering soon. Apparently, Larry Krasner from Philly is going to blow up the ballroom once Trump builds it.
I mean, good luck with that. Real quick, programming note. Did I just hear in that great interview with the Deputy Press Secretary of the White House, Taylor, that you were at the end of that segment wanting to ban Lime scooters? We need to nip that kind of talk right in the bud, right out of the gate. You are fully well aware that those Lime scooters in D.C. are a favored mode of transportation for yours truly that has saved me because we have had such insane Freedom 250 from July 4th to the Indy race, and I got to go in the car, which was awesome. It's like all of these events are absolutely wonderful for the country. And I wish every year we celebrated the country. But I will say from a traffic standpoint for Washingtonians with the road closures, it is an epic nightmare. And Lime scooters have saved me time and time again. So
Well,
don't get rid of those things.
Do you feel personally victimized by Marc Cox?
Yes. You know, we were just talking a couple weeks ago. I wiped out on one, and I still use them because they're literally the only thing that I can get from one place to the other and not be stuck for hours in traffic.
That's a good point. The reason I was joking about it is that under the previous administration here in St. Louis, under the previous mayor, they banned Lime scooters downtown because they felt like it was attracting teenagers from the city to come down and gather in downtown and ride these things all over the place at night. And of course, everybody was affected by it because, you know, a lot of visitors to the city use these things to get around and everything. And they basically put the kibosh on them for a while. And finally, there were enough complaints that they realized it's not the Lime scooters. Like, it's not the gun. It's the people using it that are the problem.
Leave those Lime scooters alone. Come on. Focus here. I'm glad you're not on that train.
No, I am not. Hey, how was the race through downtown? I saw some highlights of it. I saw the winner thanking Donald Trump afterwards. Were there any crashes or anything?
There were some crashes, and, you know, Alex Palou, who is like the Tiger Woods of Indy racing, he won Indy 2 years ago, but he's just about to win all of the championship the whole year because he's got so many points. He was the favored guy, and Alex, because, you know, I follow Indy pretty close, Alex won 3 of 5 street courses coming into that race on Sunday, and he had a minor crash, but it took him out of the race. Kyle Kirkwood, who's number 2 in the running that you're talking about, that won, he is awesome. You know, he the first thing out of his mouth, he was like, hey, I just won. I look over and I see the president of the United States cheering. I don't care who the president is. When a president is cheering for you, that's pretty dang cool. Yeah. And he couldn't be more correct, but it was amazing. And I did get to go. By the way, I've lived for more than 30 years in D.C. I've been on Pennsylvania Avenue a million or more times. And being in the back seater of an Indy car going 170 miles an hour down Pennsylvania Avenue is bucket list cool. It was so much fun. And when I got in the car, I kind of goosed the driver. I said, all right, I did Indy, but don't let me down. This is my town. All gas, no brakes. And the driver turned to my cameraman and was like, I like this guy. You got that kind of energy? Let's go. Buckle up.
That had to be, like, your stomach had to just be turning 170 miles an hour through the streets of downtown Washington.
Yeah, well,
that's
and not
crazy.
only that. So what's so cool is, the Pennsylvania, there were 7 turns. It's a 1.7-mile loop, 7 total turns, and the longest straightaway was Pennsylvania Avenue at 0.4 miles. And so he takes out of turn 1 just opens it up, hits 170, but then to go 0.4 miles at 170, you have to brake so rapidly. It's amazing these drivers aren't getting whiplash in the physical demand of having to do 147 laps, which is what they had, of just a rapid start and stop. It's really crazy. It's like, I kind of describe it as like when I did it in the same car at Indy, that's a long straightaway oval track. So even when you're going into turns on an oval, you're feeling massive G's because they're sometimes accelerating into it. And then you get like reverse G-force almost because you're so rapidly braking on the street courses like that and going from 170 down to 40 miles an hour on that turn. It's like, wow.
So
buckle up.
Are they doing these drivers? Are they doing training similar to what you would do if you were an astronaut? Like if you were Gail King, who's an astronaut, would you have to do similar training to be able to drive
Katy Perry.
Yeah, that's right. I forgot about Katy Perry. She too is an astronaut.
Yes, she was.
But to go that fast, I understand it wouldn't be to the extent that an astronaut would have to go to, but certainly something if you're going close to 200 miles an hour, right?
So I'm glad you mentioned and you used the keyword training. So there's no training for it. They put you in a suit and then you kind of have a, helmet on and you're just kind of tucked in. There's kind of a thing that comes over you, but your head still bobbles around. You still feel the whiplash and they just take you for one lap. So I think that's it. However, the Indy people seem to appreciate my enthusiasm and energy behind IndyCar. So they loved it when I was at Indy, and they're like, we got to get you in the car in D.C. That's your hometown. I'm like, okay, great.
Nice.
Talking to the head woman, I said, listen, next year for the Indy, if I came out, weeks, months in advance, even if I had to do multiple trips out there, shoot a package, but could you put me in some sort of training, physical training, simulator training, and get me possibly where I could drive the car for a lap on Indy? And she was like, oh my goodness. And I kept working on her all weekend. Finally at the end, she was like, okay, maybe. I'm like, that's not a no. That's not a no.
Wow.
Like, I have to talk to people about that, but and you're going to have to sign your life away, but maybe we could do that. And there's a precedent. Michael Strahan, I believe, drove 1 year, actually went around the track. I interviewed Pato Ward, who's another one of the stars, on Friday morning for my live hits before the weekend. And I was telling him on live TV, trying to get this idea out there to as many people. He said, I don't know, man. I don't think you'd make it out of pit road. You'd stall.
That's
so not
funny.
a lot of confidence I could do it. But let me tell you, when you talk about bucket list things there, can you imagine opening up an IndyCar?
Have you checked with the wife on that, Griff? Just when I told my wife I might get to fly with the Blue Angels when they were in town, she's like, are you nuts? And that's the response I got. Are you crazy?
I have not broached it with the long-suffering Mrs. Jenkins, although I will guess when someone tells her, she'll find it a little surprise.
Just make sure the life insurance policy is paid up before. That's what my wife said. Just if you're going to do that, make sure that's covered in the life insurance policy. I'm like, okay, all right.
Exactly. But you know what? Boys will be boys. What are you going to do?
That's right. That's right.
That's why I went skydiving before I got married and had kids.
There you go.
Yes, that was fun too.
Griff, have fun this weekend. I'm sure you're headed back up to New York here soon, huh?
I am in New York now. Going to do the Big Money Show, a little Fox business, and then, of course, Fox and Friends weekend coming up.
Tell our friend Taylor Riggs that we said hello, please.
Why, I sure will. I bet she's on the show today, and she's a lot of fun. I love, by the way, going on these business shows because they're like, okay, the tech stocks are down, and that's a lot of AI overspending and blah, blah, blah. Griff, what do you think? I'm like, I don't know, buy Apple. It's like that. It's definitely not my strong suit talking about markets.
Yeah.
Same.
All right. We'll talk next week, buddy. Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
All right. See ya. Griff is the best. I'm telling you what. All right. If you're looking for a way to commemorate 9/11, there's going to be a March to the Arch downtown that's being planned right now. We're going to give you more details on it coming up.
Accident eastbound 6440 at Spady, and the left lane is blocked. Traffic, of course, is starting to stack up behind it. We had an earlier accident near McKnight. That one has been cleared to the shoulder. But we're kind of left with slow pockets anywhere from 270 through Big Bend, with westbound still slowing Hampton through 170 and northbound 270. Volume there, mostly between Gravois and Manchester. We've got on the Illinois side a jam westbound 5570, especially on either side of 111. But we're fine on the Poplar Street Bridge. 64, though, is busy at the 70 split. I'm Sue Thomas with traffic on 97.1 FM Talk, St. Louis Conservative.
All right, great time to remind you that coming up will be the 25-year anniversary, of course, the 9/11 terrorist attack in New York City. And we are going, as we have the last couple of years, we're going to be doing the show live to benefit the Focus Marine Foundation. If you heard my friend Holly Klasner on yesterday, she was talking a bit about that and what they do for all veterans, not just Marines. They've expanded it to all veterans, and they kind of embrace them, and they take them in as a family, and they spend a week or so down on this private property, and it's really pretty cool. It's out near Augusta somewhere, and of course that costs money. They raise money throughout the year. So on 9/11, we will be live in Eureka for the show from 5 to 9. We'll be raising money for them, for Focus Marine Foundation. And, of course, you can always stop at Chicken Ellie's there in downtown Eureka, right downtown, and you can grab some food. A portion of all the proceeds will go to the Focus Marine Foundation. Some of the members will be there. Some of the veterans who have been injured and who've gone through this program are going to be there. You'll have a chance to meet them. You can make donations. We would love to see you down there for the broadcast. And there would be plenty of time afterwards to participate in the March to the Arch, which is going to start at exactly 9/11 on that day up at 141 and Clayton Road. We've got Bo Drochelman with us this morning. He started this, actually founded it back in 2002. Am I correct about that, Bo? Good morning.
Well, yes, Mark. That's absolutely correct. It was the first anniversary.
Yeah, well, we're thrilled to have you on this morning and telling people more about this, because I'm assuming then every year for the past 24 years, you have completed this 21-mile walk to the Arch.
That's correct. This is the 25th walk that I will have done. Started originally just by myself. I got a wild hair and had been thinking about it for a year after the event, and just grabbed the flag off the front of my house. And I live out near where we're leaving from. And I walked down to the Arch, and my wife didn't know I was going, and she thought I was an idiot. But,
Bo, how has it grown over the years?
well, it's fluctuated. COVID put a real bump into us. We did it. About 14 of us even did it in 2020, but we couldn't advertise it because we didn't want to subject people to potentially getting sick. But we've done it ever since. We've been as high as 750 people, and again, as low as me. That was it.
Yeah.
Well, I think you were telling me over the phone, Bo, that, like, for example, a snack or something like that, I think even the T-shirts, didn't you say they're provided? Because I think typically if people are taking part in something like this, you expect to pay some sort of almost like an entry fee, a registration fee. But that's something that seems to set yours apart.
Well, we do not charge anything. We don't want to put any impediment to people doing this walk. So some great people provide Gatorade and water. Some other great people provide we're going to have some sandwiches along the way. The T-shirts are free. We self-fund. Anything we get as a potential donation, we give straight to some charity. Could be the USO, Injured Marine, Backstoppers. We do not keep any money for ourselves. But as long as the T-shirts last, you get one. They're always free. This year it's kind of got a very nice picture that commemorates 250 years and 25 years of the walk on the back of the T-shirt.
Wow. Well, it's fantastic that you do this, and that I get the feeling that you're going to get a lot of people turn out. So you meet at Mike Duffy's there by 141 in Clayton, and
Correct.
and I would assume people would need to get there prior to 9:11 a.m. because that's when you're going to kick off the walk. Am I correct?
That is correct. We head all the way down Clayton Road to Skinker over to Lindell down to Jefferson to Market, and Market straight in. And I think that one of the keys that I'd like, besides the fact that it's free, is we want people. I would love if the same number of people that passed away on 9/11 actually participated in the march, but that's going to be a stretch. So.
Yeah, well, and just to remind people, you don't have to walk the whole way. The point is, come out and walk a mile if you want. If you're in good enough shape to do all 21, you're welcome to do that. You can stop and start, and I would assume join anywhere along the path, right?
Absolutely. We stop at about 6 different places. On our website, marchtothearch.com, you'll see the route, and you'll see how many miles in between each rest stop. It'll give you that information, and we'd love to have people whenever they can, even if they want to stand by the side of the road and cheer us on when we go by. That's wonderful.
Well, Bo Drochelman, thanks for all you do. Thanks for starting this. Thanks for doing it out of, obviously, a sense of patriotism and showing support for the people we lost that day on 9/11. And again, it's marchtothearch.com is the website. People can go there and find out all the details. Thank you, sir.
Mark, Kim, thank you so much for talking to me. Appreciate it.
You bet. Absolutely. And, there you go. You could come and see our show live and still have plenty of time to get up there and get to Clayton and 141 and do the walk.
It's cool that he's providing all that stuff,
Isn't
and that
it?
you don't have to commit to the whole thing. You
know.
just go for however much you can do is fine.
What a guy. That's fantastic. One way to show your patriotism on 9/11 and do something in memory of the people that lost their lives that day. All right, that's going to do it for us. Hope you have yourselves a good Thursday. Kilmeade's up next. We'll see you tomorrow morning at 5 a.m.